with these MRIs, there are a few rules when you interpret MRI so you understand them. When it comes to an MRI, fat is going to be white. So if you see any white in there, that's fat. Okay. Now, everybody lumps fat in the same category, but there's good fat and bad fat. And it's really better like deadly fat and optimizing fat. Mm-hmm. So calling it, it's like watering down, calling it good and bad. It's like optimizing and increasing your quality of life, giving you the life that you want to live when you pay attention to that, or it's going to kill you. And it's your decision. And what we do is we bring fidelity with these MRI scans into how you're doing. So you can focus in exactly on that. So to use Tom's language, it's KPI. I'm going to take your company and I'm going to go through those books and I'm going to say, you suck. You think you're doing good. You're losing all this money. And then we're going to tell you where you're doing good and how you can build on it better. So I got that part down, the clinical science. I really suck on the business side. So, so you can throw, if I do good at the end of the day, give you some tips how to improve. So this MRI is going to show you the first and bad player. And I'm going to call these things, I use this analogy, 4 horsemen. Okay, these horsemen, and when I grew up as a kid, the bad guys wore black hats. So we'll call them 4 black-hatted horsemen. So they have black hats, and they're bad, and they got guns. And those guns are what destroy your life. And they shoot bullets, but they're unlike the bullets I'm used to as an ER doc. So I've seen many gunshot wounds. People die right in front of me. And it just causes massive trauma. These bullets are so small. It's just very, very minimal damage. You can't even detect it. You're being shot, you don't even know you're being shot. So these guys are inside shooting away with their bullets, destroying the quality of life so slow that you don't know that this is happening. So we're going to teach you about them, and we're going to have them ride off into the sunset and leave you. But right now, these 4 guys are inside your wire. They're inside your body, and they're destroying it. So we're going to reveal who they are. We're going to name them. You're going to see them, and that's the beginning of them leaving forever. There's a 5th horseman, and the 5th horseman's got a white hat. He's good. He's got a gun too. Only his gun shoots magic bullets, and it creates a molecule, that, at least one that we know about, is called adiponectin. adiponectin. So you want that adiponectin. It's like a bulletproof vest. It protects you from the bullets that these guys fire. So you want none of the 3 black-hatted horsemen, and you want the white-hatted horsemen. So we're going to introduce the 4. So the first one is visceral fat, right in the middle. So you might think, well, God, that guy has a huge amount, and he does. But no way am I going to have that much. But let me tell you something. That guy is the guy who taught me about visceral fat. That's Dr. Zheng, Chinese guy.
Wow.
He has a 31-inch waist, so he's smaller than me. So be scared. You can have that inside of you. Just because you are thin doesn't mean you don't have that visceral fat inside of you. So 31-inch waist, smaller than me, and he was filled with it. And he figured this out on his own because he was studying at the UW. Where which of your sons went there?
Washington.
Sean did. Okay.
Yeah.
So at the UW, and he was studying chronic disease and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. And he noticed all the people that had the most amount of disease had all this white stuff. That's what he called it. What is all that white stuff? He talks with the thick Chinese. Yeah. What is all that white stuff? What? So he figured it out. Now, it's been around. It's been known for decades. PhDs, undergraduate students study visceral fat, visceral adipose tissue, but it's not known by doctors. And so he had to learn about that relationship. And once he learned about it, the first doctor he taught about it was me. So I joined his practice and learned about visceral fat. So that's the white stuff in the middle. And then when it comes to the dark stuff, muscle, bone, and organ, like internal organs, the small intestine, large intestine, colon, liver, they're all dark. So we'll introduce you to the second bad player in the muscles. These are the oblique muscles here, and these are the erector spinae muscles. So the muscles become infiltrated, invaded by, replaced by fat. And this fat is called myosteatosis. That's the medical term. But the other kind of layman's term is human marbling. So your body, your muscles become marbled. I know Candy is pissed off at the thought of her muscles being marbled.
They
The
are right
hell
now.
with
I know
that.
they are.
Yeah, well, you're gonna hate that. What you see, that marbleization, and that's when I could tell you those things, and you hate it already. But once you see it, God, you're gonna be ticked off. Then you're really gonna do these strategies. Yeah,
I can see it in my
bring
mind's
it
eye.
on. So this myelostenosis is the second bad player. The third bad player, do you see that black line? It's very poor.
Yes.
So that's, if you've heard me talk about adiponectin, that's Scarpa's fascia, Scarpa's membrane. And you can't see it so good there, but we're going to see it in the very next scan. But it divides the subcutaneous compartment into two compartments. Now, if you look at studies, you probably have a vague awareness that, some degree of fat is healthy for the body. You need to have some fat, and people that have some fat tend to live a little bit longer than this vague kind of feeling. Well, that's because they're lumping both of those together. What if we study precisely superficial subcutaneous fat and gave you nothing but the adiponectin, and we had this thing go away? Then we'd be telling, fool, if you do not have this subcutaneous fat and you have any of the other stuff, fool. And that's what we don't have. Nobody is bringing this kind of clarity to this. And so that's what we do. We tell our clients about subcutaneous fat, and then we say, you want this part, and you don't want that, and you don't want that part. So bad player, bad player, bad player. They all wear black hats. Now the fourth one, you can't see in this scan, but that's organ fat. So that's fat around your heart, fat inside your heart, fat in your liver. We'll see that in some other scans. Those 4 black-hatted horsemen. Here's something interesting about them, though. They all are on horses, and they all have the same stature. There's not a little one and a big tall one. Because when you have this one, tall and big, this one is tall and big, and this one's tall and big. They're all proportional. They're all have the same silhouette. But when they're present in full force, they really diminish this guy. So they make him smaller. And so when you get rid of those 3, we can make this one come back bigger. Now the 48 strategies that we'll give you later in the afternoon, when you look at them, are designed to get rid of this, to get rid of this, get rid of this, and to increase and maintain that. So it works out perfectly. We've studied for 7 years. So we know how to do that, to bring that kind of clarity to that. So we're not gonna leave you guessing. You'll know exactly how to do that, and our clients will preserve that capability. So let's look into a little better clarity. So that was 15 years ago. This is now just 2 years ago. So now we see better resolution, and we can see this big area of visceral fat inside. That's the belly button. And when you went through your scanner today, you laid on your back and you looked up at the ceiling, the top of that scanner, because your belly button was sticking up. So that's one of the first scans we're going to see is you laying in that same position. So you can see all that fat there, and now all the fat in that muscle. So you'll begin to associate, even now, the proportionality of visceral fat to muscle fat. So what you do not see is a bunch of white and a bunch of black muscles. You always, when you see a bunch of white, you're going to see a bunch of white in the dark. And if you came into the scan and you saw all black muscles here, you would not see all this white. It's always the case. I've studied thousands and thousands of people, and I've never seen a single exception to that. It is a rule you can bank on. Those 4 black-hatted horsemen are always proportional. So, and look now, we're down lower in the body, so we can see the other scan was up a little bit higher. We can see now that subcutaneous fat in its maximal compartment area right there. You see that black line? So huge amount of deep subcutaneous fat along with a huge amount of visceral fat. So the bullets these guys shoot are interchangeable. They're basically the same thing. They're inflammatory molecules. They can swap those bullets in between their guns. They work the same way to tissue all over the body. There's like common, when we use it in the Army, I'm trying to think. I just retired from the Army Monday. I'm a physician.
You did?
I did, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. What what is that term we use for this standard I forget the term for ammo is standard for across NATO, so we can share bullets and stuff. Anyway, these three players all shoot interleukin 6, adipokines, chemokines, cytokines, inflammatory substances that go out and destroy your body. So you see those three players, and this you can see how small now that superficial subcutaneous fat is. So you want more of that, and you want none of this thing. Now, I can also tell by virtue of that position, that black line, that this is going to be a male. Now, when we scan Candy, she's going to have, relative to males, less visceral fat, less myelocitosis, and less deep subcutaneous fat. So Tom's line is going to be closer this way. Candy's line is going to be closer in this direction. And it's just the way the species works. Females have lower mortality. If you think about it, women do not die of heart attacks and strokes until they get into the late 50s and 60s. Now, these guys show up in my ER, they're complaining about chest pain. I'm worried about an aortic dissection or a heart attack, as young as they are. Because 20-year-olds, males, can have heart attacks. Female, I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking histrionic anxiety.
Yeah.
It's usually the first thing I'm thinking about. But
I know those girls.
But with males, they get disease because we get a lot more visceral fat. Guys start forming visceral fat in their 20s, and we'll show it to you in some of these scans coming up. So females are protected until menopause. And then menopause kicks in, and it's the great accelerator.
Yes.
Once that menopause kicks in, they start putting on visceral fat, but not if you know what to do to prevent that from happening. Our species knew formerly, but we've lost that knowledge and we gained it back. All right, well, let's look at, I forgot to mention this. You see how burdened these muscles now have gotten with this fat. Yeah. So these two muscles are called erecti spinae muscles. Erecti spinae is Latin for keep the spine erect. Yeah. So when these muscles start getting this inflammatory fat, do you think it helps them work better? No way. No way. And so your muscles start falling apart, they start shrinking, and they don't perform as well. So muscle mass goes down and muscle performance goes down. So this is what it looks like later in life.
Yeah.
You get a crooked back.
Yeah.
And and women oftentimes get it even significantly worse and gets accelerated, and you become one of these little old ladies totally bent over like that. Yeah. So the answer to why you end up looking like this is not old age. You lose your posture because of disease. Yeah. It is disease. Call it for what it is. Do not blame aging. This is nothing more than disease. Yeah. So you young guys need to recognize that this is going to be fine. When we see it in your parents, it's going to be in you as well, in just a smaller amount. And if you do not want to have a look like that, then you're going to want to make sure you're not causing these kind of fats. All right, let's look at some more comparison and contrast. All right, these two are both guys, and they're both the same age. They're both 30. Wow. So I can look at those two, and I know right away that this guy, all that white in there is visceral fat, so I know he's filled with visceral fat on the inside. But because of their same age, and this guy has all this white fat in here, I can tell that this guy has had this for a very long time, and this guy has only recently got that. And the way I can tell, let me see if either of you guys can guess. Any guesses why I know that?
Because the line, the adiponectin line is a little less, the thick part, the inside part that's suffocating, and then also the muscles are not as marbleized looking.
Mm-hmm. That's a better guess at the end.
Okay.
He will start to get like marbleization, but the real telltale sign, his muscles are big.
Yeah.
When you get this much and it's been around for a long time, it will shrink the black. Goodbye, black. There it goes. You lose your muscle. Your muscle mass is attacked and it atrophies the longer you're exposed to this. So this fat has been here a long time. This guy's 30 years old. He grew up in Bangladesh. Very nice guy. I met him in a sauna of all places in St. Cloud, Minnesota. This guy was 30 years old, came in with a cane, limped in. He looked like hell. Came in and he had this thick accent and he's talking to me, and he's graduated recently from college at St. Cloud University and got a scholarship somehow. And he said, I want to go back and teach poor children in my country, in Bangladesh, how they can get educated and break the cycles of poverty like me, because he grew up this poor kid. And I'm like, dear God, let me help this guy. So I started working with him. So he's filled with this visceral fat, and his muscles are atrophied because this has been present and because of his diet of rice and pasta for so long, eating all that.
Did you just see the reel I posted
Oh my God.
yesterday?
No.
People
It's
are
at 300,000 views
losing their
now.
mind.
Because I
Rice?
tell him, I said, you're eating rice and pasta and potatoes, you might as well eat Snickers bars.
Yeah, good for you.
And
I'll
they're
jump in
no,
on that.
People are so pissed that they're
that's
like,
not
you can't
true.
compare those.
I
I'm
know,
like-
I'll jump in on that. I'll get in on that. I want some of that. I'm in.
I love it.
Tag team.
Light
They
some
need
people
it.
up.
So these muscles are shrunk because of all that. Now, this guy, filled with all that visceral fat, has got these great muscles. Take a look at his body. Yeah, you think you're so damn healthy. You're filled with that visceral fat. You cannot tell from the outside. You got to be scanned. This guy is a master fitness trainer with me in the military. He's Army National Guard. He's second lieutenant.
Yeah.
And so when I scanned him, he was super pissed off. He only recently added in carbohydrates. So he's like, he's following all the bodybuilders online telling him to eat
Carb
carbs
loading.
and stuff. And so that's exactly what he did. And he did not realize what was happening inside because he was only paying attention to his outside. So now I let people know you can have a huge amount of visceral fat in there, and you just cannot tell from the outside.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at this lady. She's almost all black. It's just totally filled with black. I mean, it's very, very little visceral fat in there. She's nice oval shape. Do you know who this is?
That's she reached out to us.
Did
I watched
she?
you talk about, she's been trying to get us on her podcast since day one. And we
Oh.
should say yes to
Older-
her because
older
she's
woman with
really
white hair?
sweet. Yeah.
Like,
But
Very-
she was a model.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know, I
she's
can't think of her
gorgeous.
name.
Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Yeah.
We've talked to her a bunch.
She's very intelligent. I like her a ton. I've been on her page for lives probably 7 or 8 times. Her husband is a real badass. I mean, he's I think a lieutenant colonel, retired now, United Kingdom special ops,
Yeah.
special forces. He's a badass soldier. I'm like a dumb doctor. I'm what we call medcom weenie. People, the medical corps. But he was a real badass, and he led all sorts of special forces in the Middle East, Afghanistan, Iraq. So he's a legit, infantry guy. But go on their page and talk to them, do lives with them. They're outstanding. And she looks the way she does, and she's 60 years old.
She looks amazing.
Because
gorgeous.
she's not only does she not have visceral fat, but the most important point is she never had it. So she's never fallen apart.
Yeah.
She's that girl that probably all the other girls hated because in first grade she looked pretty, and she also looks pretty when she's 60.
Yeah.
You hated this girl your whole damn life.
Yeah.
If you know her, you've resented her for
Yeah,
her
you're just
looks.
waiting to see her in the store and she's gained 50 pounds. And,
Yeah,
and
she's
she
doesn't
it.
happen.
But she went Atkins. So when I found out, she went Atkins as a young child, and her parents, and they never went off of it, unlike the rest of us. So my mom went Atkins and got us to cut out carbohydrates, and then the government came out and warned us that carbs are okay and that fat was the bad thing, and so we got off fat and did the snack wow thing and low fat and non-fat, and we all got fat and fell apart. She avoided that, so she's got this pretty face, gorgeous thick hair, nice beautiful arms, and elegant torso. So she's never had that visceral fat. So visceral fat is why you end up falling apart. The exposure to them. So let's look a little bit more at the association of visceral fat to muscle fat. So what we do is now we scan people's legs. So these are the respective legs, right and left legs of clients with their abdomens compared.
Yeah.
So this guy is an Olympic sprinter. Carolyn is the best female scan I've ever seen. This is the best overall abdominal scan I've ever seen, and clearly the best male. So look at his muscles. They're just
Solid
freakish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Filet mignon. I mean,
Yes.
look
Yeah,
at that.
that's
And
nuts.
look at the core here. Okay, this is the core, the iliopsoas
Yeah.
muscles here compared to the vertebral body. They're monsters, just like birch trees
Holy shit.
inside. So what we do is we look at the sagittal abdominal diameter or distance between the tip of this muscle to the abdominis rectus.
Yeah.
Very important metric. So if you measure that thing, how you'll see all that distance is disease.
Yeah.
So and disease propensity inside the body. Now look at this one. They're kissing.
Oh my
They're
God.
literally kissing. So that's what you want to do. You want to bring your core to your abdominis rectus. And you
Shit.
do that only when you don't have any visceral fat.
Yeah.
And so his visceral fat is that tiny little bit there and that tiny little bit there. He's got like nothing. And so he's literally wall to wall muscle. And his legs are just muscle too. I mean, he's
Perfect.
fantastically healthy. But this guy is like Wagyu beef.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
it's
gonna
just
be me.
marbleized like
I'm gonna be
crazy.
Wagyu
How,
beef.
okay, can I jump ahead?
Sure.
How long does it take you to correct some of this shit? Like, if you were working with a guy like that.
How bad of a badass are you?
Yeah. Well,
We're as badass as they
we'll
come.
go as
Okay.
fast as far as
Set
hard
a
as we can
record.
go.
We'll
Here's
do
what you want to do.
whatever.
You want to make Dr. Sean slideshow.
Okay.
I
Yes.
put my true alphas that give me the faster results because I want to show those results. You
That's
want to
it.
be, you want to make that claim,
911,
Dr.
we are
You want to be a good
on.
example, not up here for being a bad example.
Yeah.
And so, I tell these people when they're up here, I say, give me a good final chapter. Okay, you want to be able to show that you improve in this period of time. And so, this guy is crushing it because. He became very overwhelmed when you see this kind of disease. So these legs are completely different. You could see why this guy's an Olympic sprinter and why this guy took literally 2 swings to get his butt out of that couch.
Yeah.
Right there, it took 2 swings. He had
Yeah.
to swing to get himself
Lift
up. I was
himself.
watching. Yeah. So the level of disease that he had. All right, let's talk some alpha badass. All right, this guy shows up. He came to me in January of this year. He's 43 years old, so young guy. But look at all that visceral fat he had in here. I said, dude, you got an abdomen like a gigantic pimple. It's like you're ready to rupture and blow out all this abscess, visceral fat right out through your damn belly button. You're laying on that thing, and your belly is sticking up in the air. And I went after him pretty hard because this guy. Is a high school graduate of a high school that you probably have heard of, Shattuck High School. It's the best high school in the world for
Really?
hockey.
Ah.
Okay.
It's the #1 hockey. That's where all the
Okay.
best hockey players go. Canadians come down to go to
Really?
Minnesota to that. It's in this area somewhere,
Okay.
like an hour away or something. So Shattuck is the hockey high school where all the promising hockey players go to become NHL players.
Okay.
So this guy has a couple records there. The highest number of goals ever scored in a game. Okay, that's impressive. But how about the highest number of goals scored in a season? Now you know that guy's an alpha making my hair stand up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that guy
Gretzky style.
made it to the NHL. And so he became a professional, hockey player, which is admirable in himself. Not many
Yeah.
people get to do that. So this guy's a badass. But, he leaves the NHL, and it's now 15, 18, 20 years later, and look at what's happened to him. He's no NHL player now. He's fallen apart. But what he transitioned to is the business world. So
Sitting.
he took his drive to be the best hockey player to the business world. Guy's worth 7 figures. He became a billionaire. He's crushing it in the business world. Totally crushing it. So successful, hugely successful in hockey, hugely successful in business. Now, because he has those 2 experiences, being a badass and alpha in that area, what do you think he does? when we give him biological optimization. Do you think he sits on his ass and kind of, half-ass this? No. He drives it like crazy. So he goes from here to here in 4 months.
Wow.
That's 4 months.
That's
That's
big.
great.
yeah. He
That's
got on it.
amazing.
Because I'm like, dude, you've made all this money,
4 months.
and I hope you got good life
I got
insurance.
goosebumps now.
Because you dropped dead of a heart
Yeah,
attack.
what's it
And
worth?
everything you worked for is going
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
somebody else, your family, which I guess is good. Take care of your family, but you want to be in your family's life. Like you guys want to be in your boys' life to influence them and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
So this guy crushed it, he understood it, and he achieved that. So that's what I look for. I look for those kind of, because they're going to give me the best results. I'm going to study that because they're basically the alpha leaders of tribes that made our species great.
Yep.
And we figure out from them how to help everybody else below. So that's why I'm looking for these influencers to try to reach them.
Love it.
That's my message. All right, let's look at this poor fella. So he's big and rotund, filled with visceral fat, and he's got a belly sticking up in the air. And how old do you think this guy is?
Oh, I don't know.
43?
40-something. Yeah.
9 years old. That's what's happened to our species. Yeah. So you'd have to see the parents crying when they see their kid with this. So their parents came down, they got scanned, and then I showed them their kids.
Oh.
That's what's going on. Life and death.
Robert.
So you want
Robert and Grafton.
to intervene early and wake them the hell up.
Yeah.
Now this kid has totally changed his life. Totally changed his life because he's only 9 years old. But we showed him this scan, and the whole family. His dad was a this guy, he was a fat ass. He came down here as a fat ass guy, but he came down here because his boy, this one, said, "I want to be just like you, big just like you." And that father couldn't sleep at night.
Yeah.
But that kid told him that. He said, "I've got to change, my life and change my family's life." And this boy's father took over the family business from his dad. So just like probably your boys will probably take over this business. But what was interesting is this boy's father, who's the patriarch of the family, brought his parents. The grandfather who started the business. The grandfather wasn't the patriarch. You see, the anointing passed to the son, the fat one. And the fat one saw it. We've got to change. A pivot has to happen. And he made that decision. And he paid for his parents and his wife's parents to come and do this. So he bought alpha plans from all. I mean,
That's great.
tons of MRI scans. God, I think we did 40 scans. It was a huge amount. I can't. Maybe it was like 60 scans. I don't know how many damn scans we did, but it went on for 3 days of scanning and scanning and scanning. And it was super stressful to me. I was like, God, I got to charge more money because I almost dropped dead of a heart attack from the stress of it. But the father, brought his parents, his wife's parents, and his 4 kids, and they're all changing together. Now, here's the interesting thing. I'm going to predict this. I don't have their picture. I don't have permission to show, but we have them all upstairs, 11 of them, and they're in my front hallway. And I predict that's going to be the photograph that be changed around the world.
Yeah.
The reason is because they're all changing together. So we're going to do their before and after photographs. And I want to do the same thing with companies. I want to take leadership. I want to say, you guys suck.
Yeah.
You think your company is so good, and look at your lives. Look at you're falling apart. You need to show to your customers and your clients that you're about excellence by changing yourselves and show that to your employees and make history. And I want to take photographs before and afters of leadership and show them that. So I have lots of ideas, and we'll see.
Before and afters are so powerful.
Yeah.
We'll get into a few of them. So this is another impressive business guy who owns a very large company. This was his scan. He got super pissed off when he saw his scan, and then he took the Olympic sprinter and he put it up in his house. And he put it with a major part of the strategies to include in there. So so now he sees it multiple times during the day. So whatever it takes to be confronted. All right. So this is grass-fed and corn-fed, grain-fed, carb-fed cows, And so, it's basically that marbleization is going on in your tissues. We can see it's in steak. And so when you see it in the grocery store, you can see it's going to be happening inside of you if you're eating these carbohydrates.
Yeah.
The sad thing is one of these grain cattle feed trucks tipped over and spilled all over the highway. I don't know if you saw the news story, and I talk about a couple videos, but people took photographs of it because mixed in all the cattle feed are Skittles. They're now
you talk
feeding
about
cows human candy. And then, I was putting this together over the years, and it has brought me a few times to the point of weeping that I used to feed my kids candy.
Yeah.
And how it just causes disease in their body, and how the system has convinced us that we're loving our kids when we're poisoning them.
Yeah.
It's just it's completely the opposite.
Yeah.
By the way, this is the Olympic sprinter. And when
Oh,
this
yeah.
photograph was taken, he never lifted weights, never
was
did
jacked.
pull-ups, no push-ups. That's just from the
Really?
myokines.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what I noticed with me too. I did carnivore a year ago and was really strict for like a month and a half, and I got more ripped than I ever have, and I almost didn't lift.
Yeah.
Like I did a couple push-ups and pull-ups.
Yeah.
And I've been doing some sprints at home, and he's been hitting a Smith machine doing benching, and he comes upstairs the other day and he goes, "I just hit a PR. I did 205," and I'm like, "I gotta try." So I went downstairs after 2 or 3 weeks of sprinting, and just 50 push-ups a day ish. I go down and I throw up 205 twice. without
Yeah.
even trying.
See.
And I'm 15 years older and diabetic.
Yeah.
And I whooped his ass.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, that. By the way, you got you're in good shape because how old are you, Tom?
37.
37, and you still have preserved the ability to blush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not many older guys don't blush. Older women don't blush.
Interesting.
Have you noticed it goes away? But the blushing is a really strong biological trait.
Is it?
So when you just shared that, you blushed. So it taught me as a researcher that you still have vasodilatory capabilities. You can still use your capillary beds.
Okay.
And that's a really important human trait because if we found humans that we couldn't communicate with, and invariably that was often the case because we were nomadic, we'd bump into other people.
Yeah.
It was biology that taught us who we could trust.
Yeah.
And do you know why blushing is a trustworthy trait?
Huh.
It says that this is a sincere, trustworthy person.
Oh.
And so
That's why I
When
liked
you're-
you right away.
when your boys were young and you would catch them doing something, they make a mistake, they would blush. And it would authenticate for you that they felt remorse. It's the kid that's stone cold white that you catch that you worry about with your kids
Yeah.
when they
When they
blush.
blush.
And I tell my clients, these two, you kind of lost it on them, but I tell my clients that have kids when they're blushing, you talk to them. Dad knows or mom knows, I want you to know that I love you, okay? And I'm just sharing this to help you. And Dad knows you're such a good boy. You're such a good girl. And you see them blushing, and you go up there and you put your arms around them and you create oxytocin and you bond in that moment as their principal mentors, using that blushing to authenticate that this is the time you move and help them learn and become better. And so, Mike, it's
Programming
all
their brain.
biology.
Yeah.
Neuroplastic.
People don't know that, but blood flow. So
Okay.
anyway, I saw that blood flow with
Good.
you, but
Yeah.
that sprinting will create those myokines in a molecule called lactate, which is a hybrid between lactate and phenylalanine, which gets produced in the largest quantities actually when you exercise. So in one study, when they looked at the 10 different forms of exercise, at the very top, what produces the most amount of these myokines is sprinting. And the second one down was weightlifting. So better for producing muscle mass is actually the myokines from sprinting. And at the very bottom, guess what was at the bottom?
Long distance running.
Yeah,
Yep.
jogging.
Yeah,
So
you can
jogging
see
produces
'em.
the least
Yeah, they're
amount
just about to
of these
fall over.
myokines. It's a horrific. So it's like when it comes to exercise, the first thing we tell people to do is no distance running. So this guy got all this from never lifting weights, no push-ups, no pull-ups. He got that entirely just from sprinting. All right, few legs. This is on the internet, but I have my own take on it that I'm going to teach you. So these muscles Do you see how cohesive they are? They're a big one center mass. You see how this is multiple pieces? This is called fragmentation. These muscles are fragmenting, they're atrophying. So it tells me that the white fat, visceral fat, the black-hatted horsemen have been influencing this for a long time, and it's causing these muscles to fall apart. So the circumference of these legs are basically the same. So this poor person is probably a female, walk around, she doesn't know that her legs are scrawny as Hades. They're toothpicks because she's got all that fat concealing it.
I feel like mine are like that.
So
Or
we'll
they're
see.
marbleized. They're like
We'll
Wagyu
know.
beef.
The MRI ends the lie. We will know.
That's your tagline, my friend. That is your tagline.
So the other thing is that fat, I told you, it shows up as white. So that's bone marrow. You guys know bone marrow. It's fatty. And
Yeah.
the bone is black. I told you before.
Yeah.
Bone is black. It's dark. And it actually has got a lot of air in it. So that's what really causes it to be so dark, that air inside of it. So we can see how thick the bones are in the 40-year-old and the 70-year-old. They're basically same size, same thickness. And the muscle mass is basically the same size. But look how thin they are there.
Yeah.
Because of the visceral fat. Those bad fat depots, those 4 black-hatted horsemen, not only cause your muscle to shrink and all your health to go away, but your bone health. Everything across the board falls apart. But doctors aren't reading it either. They're not paying it. They just not part of their training. So when this happens, I'm an ER physician. So I spent 25 years working level 1 trauma centers and emergency rooms. So these people would come in the ER with broken bones.
Yeah.
You know about old people breaking bones.
Oh, God.
Well, a lot of people think that they break a bone because they fall over. No, that bone breaks. That's why they fall over. Because they're walking and they're in their little slippers in their kitchen, and suddenly they shift their entire weight over to one leg and it snaps. It just breaks like that. So when it comes to life expectancy and mortality, when that bone breaks, if you're at the age of 60 years of age and older, you have a 30% mortality rate at the age of 60. But if you're 85 and you break that bone spontaneously, your mortality is now 95%. 95%. So, and we can't save your life if we treat it. So if we do surgery and put a rod right in the middle of that and fix it, it will not improve their life expectancy.
No.
And actually, in studies,
Plaster and cardboard.
yeah, it just doesn't work. It doesn't take, and in studies, it actually increases mortality because you just did a major surgery on it. So doctors can't operate on those bones when they get that thin. So how do they decide if who's going to get treatment? Is basically before you fracture that bone, the day before, could you get out of a chair without assistance? If you could get out of a chair without assistance, they'll do the surgery. But if you can't, if you needed help and now it's fractured, they call hospice. You get no treatment. And it doesn't matter that you're worth 7 figures or 8 figures or 10 figures.
Yeah.
You know, your fate is the same. And the reason why is, let's just say Tom blows this company up and you guys become billionaires. And Tom's, well, you don't understand how much money I have. Let me take out my Amex Centurion card here. I'm going to pay for it. I'm not going through insurance. I want you to do this. I'm going to tell you, I'm the orthopedic surgeon. Oh yeah? Your money can't buy it because it's my medical license.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you
Exactly.
cannot sign a release form that says I relieve the liability of Dr. Sean doing this surgery on me. The Board of Medicine will not recognize waivers. It will not work.
Yeah.
You know, so the standard of care is the standard of care. You cannot waive standard of care.
Interesting.
And I can't do a surgery that's going to harm you. I will lose my medical license.
Yeah.
So that surgeon will be nice about it. He'll say, "No, I'm sorry, I just can't do that." But in the back, said, "Well, that guy's a prick.
Yeah.
Dumbass."
Yeah.
You know, he never learned that you should have taken care of his body.
Yeah.
But but we're going to prevent that from happening because you're going to be scanned today, and we're going to look at your bones, and we'll see the state of your bones.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's look at this guy. I told you white is fat. This one other light. Light from reflections on laptops are also white. So this is track lighting from my iPhone
I gotcha.
and the ceiling out of a hotel in Los Angeles because this guy was twisting my arm to read his scan really fast. while I was traveling, so I didn't get to go home, and I had to do it immediately. So, and I love this guy, but his muscles are all dark except for the artifactual light that's in there. And look how nice and thick his bones are.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want teeny tiny bone marrow because your bone marrow is so small and your bones are so thick. So this guy's a sprinter, and he's a carnivore, and he's been carnivore for 9 years. And this guy's 80 years old.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Whoa.
80 years
And
old.
did he? And
Biological
how was
badass.
he before he was carnivore? Was he a visceral fat guy? Was he in between?
He was unhealthy, never really obese at any substantial period of time in his life. Total kind of an alpha. Always, when he got to me, he was in very good shape, but he probably was probably at his worst point in his life was a topi, thin outside with some visceral fat inside. But his lifestyle is he's always been an elk hunter, so he would always chase elk. He's always been a
Carry heavy
sprinter.
things.
He teaches younger guys to hunt elk, and he loves to out sprint them at his age, and he can
amazing.
out
Son
sprint
of a
most of
bitch.
them at
That's
80.
amazing.
He's that good. And when he's not elk hunting, chairman of the board of a national bank. Total
Crazy.
badass. This
Yeah.
guy's a total alpha. Those are the clients I love.
Yeah.
Because you put them in front of you, put the strategies in front of them, they just do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna get you guys into your 90s looking good. Now this poor person has more fat than they have muscle. So this is a sad thing to see at age 42. But it's super super rare, unlikely. But you wanna get these scans, and it's sad that nobody scanned this person before, paid attention.
my God.
And it's sad that I think nobody would say anything to her. Super sad. Or here's a guy, and you should be able to tell really small muscles. Okay, muscles are really small, so that fat's been in there a long time. This guy was worth several $100 million. He came to me, and you may have seen me talk about him in a video because this is the guy who passed out. Did you hear about this story? So I'm going to tell you. All right, so this guy shows up, and it's kind of at the point where you guys are at. So you've seen good and bad. And when I opened up his skin, he actually passed out. But what happened was
I
It's
did
kind
hear
of-
about this. You talked about this with Dr. Berry, right?
I might have.
Yeah. He like turned really white. And
Yeah. So that's what happened. But before he showed up, I don't think I said this on Dr. Berry's show. Before he showed up, before he got scanned, he showed up and he walked in my office, and he's talking away. He's happy as can be. He's made a lot of money, and he thinks he's going to get a good report. So he is super excited. And when I'm talking to him, you probably have already kind of assessed, Dr. Sean is similar to how he is on his videos. And you probably say, well, God, it's real clear Sean loves what he does. And I do. But when this guy shows up, and even before I start scanning to him, I start stuttering. Now, I haven't stuttered once in front of you. And when I'm talking to this guy, I'm like 50, this is like 6 years ago, so I'm about 54 or so at the time, and 55. And I'm fascinated by the fact that I start stuttering. And I'm like, dear God, I've never stuttered in my entire life. I said, why am I stuttering? And I'm having this private analysis and conversation with myself. And I finally, when I'm talking to him, and then I realized, well, it's because I'm so scared. And I said, well, what am I so scared of? He's like, he's got a gun, he's going to kick my ass, or what am I so scared of? And I got in touch, I said, it's his face. I think this guy's going to drop dead and have a heart attack and die on me, right in front of me. And he's making me so scared. I'm an ER guy, and this guy's scaring the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And it's not a little bit. I'm telling you, I'm stuttering. I mean, this is real signaling,
Yeah,
biological
you're right.
signaling.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is what happens to this guy. He goes in and gets scanned. And then he comes out, he's so happy. And that desk right over there, that stand-up desk, was in my clinic that we used to have in Plymouth, Minnesota. And so he's standing up on one side. I'm on the other. Does that look like a big table? It's not a big desk. He turns green. 3 seconds later, he turns gray. And I'm like, God, he's a human chameleon. He's changing colors in front of me, and I'm trying to like say sophisticated, insightful things like, well, your muscles are small and you've got a lot of this visceral fat. But I'm just like infatuated with this human community changing colors. And I'm looking at him, and then the next thing I know, he turns completely ischemic white. Now, I have taken care of people that have had massive trauma, stab wounds, gunshots, or they go into life-threatening dysrhythmia, like ventricular tachycardia, VTAC or VFib, right in front of me, and they go ischemic white. Well, that's time, an ER physician steps in and I got to crack a chest. I got to get in and save this person's life. They're going to die in seconds. So this guy goes ischemic white in front of me, and I'm like, he's either just went into VTAC or VFib, or for sure he is going unconscious, because that's the end result of inadequate perfusion to the brain means you're going horizontal. So as fast as I could try to run, just 3 feet, I couldn't get there, because it was 1.5 seconds. This guy goes completely unconscious. He drops, hits the floor, knocks over chairs. Nurses come running in. And I'm like, oh my God, what I was stuttering for is happening right in front of me.
Oh shit! You created it.
And I'm a lawyer, so now my lawyer's ass is arguing with my doctor's ass. Like, you're getting sued. You have no EKG. You have no defibrillator, no AED. You got no drugs. Crash cart, no IV. And the doctor part is in me. He's like, oh my God, you got to ask. Start CPR. Check for a pulse. So I check, he's got a pulse, so he's perfusing. Yeah. And so I do a stimulus in the ER when we want to get them up and we feel a pulse. We do a noxious stimulus. Yeah. We rub a knuckle rub on their sternum, and they wake up. They're pissed off. Yeah. And then you wake them up, and I start talking, and the guy breaks down, starts crying. Yeah. And he said, you scared the shit out of me. Literally. That MRI. Shocked. And so he changed his whole life. Yeah. He went and put his whole house on the market. He sat for like 5-6 hours with me, figured out all these strategies. I'm selling my old house. I'm becoming a new creation. I want every health feature that you have. I'm going to commission you. I'm going to have you work with my architect. I want to design this house to change my life. And that's what he did. He told that's the power of these MRIs to give you that insight. Yeah. So I tell that story. I've already showed these scans, so this is what got my ass in trouble with the Attorney General. But I still tell every client so that they can visualize this will be you guys. We're going to repeat your MRI scans. So the disease that you have here today is going to leave you, and we're going to change that so you can visualize that. That same guy, right lung, left lung, in the middle of your lung is your heart. So a big chunk of fat around his heart. Yeah. This is only 13 weeks. So it's not 35.
3 months.
So we can take that away. And if you got fat around your heart, that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see that inflammatory fat going away. You want to make sure that disappears. Yeah. So very powerful biomarker. Yeah. All right. So this is a guy who was a jogger, 10 miles a day, 5 days a week. If you keep jogging, if you do all our strategies that we give you, but you keep jogging, we can't get rid of that visceral fat. It like blocks it from leaving your body. So if you got clients that are doing Primal Bod, and these girls, they're going to be stuck at their inability to get rid of that visceral fat, and they're not going to get rid of their deep subcutaneous fat. Okay. Yeah. And they won't be preserving their adiponectin. So this guy, finally we talked truth into him and told him we were going to fire him and no more MRIs for free. And he started sprinting. So he stopped his distance running 50 miles a week and just did sprinting. And now this guy runs a fitness channel. He retired from his company. He was CEO and he runs a fitness channel. He's more successful than I am. And he reduced his deep subcutaneous fat and has got his muscles jacked. He got a 6-pack and that's not even 2 months. Yeah. So these are the exciting things. You got to get people that can afford to do an MRI. Yeah. So here's a guy who's a marathoner. So he's TOFI, thin outside. He looked fantastic on the outside, very thin, but he's fat inside. So filled with that visceral fat. And then we scanned his heart. So a big chunk of fat. So this marathoner wasn't the casual marathoner. This guy ran 10 a year.
Oh,
I mean, he ran more marathons than anybody that was in my life. And this guy goes to my church, so I knew him in my church. He's only 34 years old. 34 years old. But this guy was VP of a national company, vice president. So you don't get to be a VP of a national company if you're just mediocre. This guy was a badass. So when he ran the marathons, he didn't sign up for the damn T-shirt. He signed up for the medal. He wanted to win that thing. And when he showed up to work, he wanted to be the CEO of that company. He wants to be the top, the top performer.
Yeah.
So guess what he did when we showed? He crushed it. I showed him those scans, and he gets a look on his face. And I used to be a cop down in Jersey, in the city, So I got some cop instincts. I'm like, this guy's going to take a swing at me. I said, this is the first guy who's not drunk who's going to hit me. And I'm like, God, he is. He goes, I am going to be your most motivated client. I was like, I love this guy. Love this guy.
That's awesome.
So he got rid of his visceral fat, 50% reduction in his visceral fat in under 3 months.
Wow.
This guy crushed it so much.
Yeah.
So these scans are really motivational. The last scan we're going to open up, you guys, are your brain arteries. So these are your arteries coming up from your neck, your carotid arteries. The first artery is called the middle cerebral artery. The middle cerebral artery on the right, middle cerebral artery on the left. The MCA, middle cerebral artery, is the number one artery for incidence of stroke. So 60% of all strokes typically happen in this one artery. So this one we pay a lot of close attention to. So dark is good blood flow, and what gets hazy like that means reduced blood flow because there's a blockage right there. So the distal portion of that artery a little further out does not have as much blood flow because the occlusion is blocking it. But look right there, it's so blocked you can't even see blood flow.
Yeah.
And so that's a real problem. This guy is 58. He's the CEO that was running 10 miles a day, 50 days a week, that we had to convince to stop running because he wasn't getting rid of his visceral fat.
Yeah.
And so then he paid attention to us, and within 9 months, he opened up this artery and opened up that one.
Wow.
In 9 months. So we thought that was great, but look at this guy showed up just last year to me in July of 2023. Same artery, middle cerebral artery, big occlusion right there. You can't see hardly anything, tiny bit of blood there, but big blockage. And then he comes back 3 months later, and that artery was opened up. 3 months. I thought 9 months was fast, but this guy's incredibly motivated. So what's his story? Well, he's a 68-year-old guy, worth probably $1 billion. He's got properties and companies and investments all over. He flew 28 hours on an airplane from Australia to see me. So he's an outlier to begin with. He's like,
Serious about
he
it.
figured out,
Yeah.
he knows, he can figure out me. He's like, this is the guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to this guy. Then those same instincts allowed him to figure out where he's going to invest and how he's going to make his money.
Yeah.
So he's like, the rest of the world kind of, is ignoring me, a few people. But this guy gets his ass on an airplane, 28 hours, he flies me. And when he goes through this 5 hours with me, the whole thing's videotaped. I said, well, Henry, when you go back, I can do your MRIs in Australia. He said, oh no, I'm coming back. He has Chinese accent. I come back with you. I bring my wife, my kid, they'll come back to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So he brought his wife and his son back. And then when we scanned him, he's like jumping up and down. He's so excited because he crushed it. He did all those things. And they were so wealthy. They hired, we have like 4 or 5 coaches now. They hired one of my coaches, and the coach that we ended up giving to them for 3 days is my daughter Riley. So my daughter Riley goes with them for 3 days. They travel to California. And so my daughter Riley was saying that when she was with him, that he was just like me. And his wife was just like my wife, Julie. So This guy's going to Whole Foods and he's buying all the ferments, right? He's got all these jars and they're putting it, into the cart. And his wife's saying, when are you going to eat all those ferments? You cannot eat all. He's like, I'm going to eat all these ferments, just like a little kid. And she says, it was just like you. She's telling my wife, Julie. Just like you and Dad, Dad's always buying all this healthy food, and you're like, when are you going to eat this healthy food? So this guy crushed it in 3 months. So what we found is radiographically people optimize also from the outside. And then as a result of that blood flow, and the reason what's happening is you saw the leg muscles, that skeletal muscle.
Yeah.
You saw the muscles in the abdomen, that skeletal muscle. Heart is a second type of muscle, cardiac muscle. And the fat invades the heart, the fat invades the skeletal muscle. The third type of muscle that is present in your body is called smooth muscle. And smooth muscle is in two particular areas. One, your gastrointestinal tract and your endocrine system. So it helps to move food through and helps to move hormones through your endocrine system. And then the third area we see it is in your cardiovascular system, your walls of your arteries and veins. And as it turns out, if you take a cross-section of a capillary, a vein, or an artery, or the GI tract, the largest portion of that tissue is actually smooth muscle. So it's incredibly important. But the fat gets deposited in there, it's destroying that muscle and keeps it from being automatically able to move and it becomes hardened, burned by that fat. So here's what we noticed. Much better blood flow. So I have to stand here with the light and hopefully, can you see my pulse there?
Yeah.
So my clients get visible pulses all over their body. And they don't have visible pulses and still start doing these strategies. And that's what you want to see.
Yes.
You want to see the visible evidence that your ass is getting healthy with better blood flow.
Yeah, sign of vitality.
Yeah. So
I've had them, maybe not right now, but yeah.
you because you blush, I would think you may have some capability. It's we'll see. It will start happening to you.
Once
you do these 48 things.
Yes.
Once you see your scan, you'll be more motivated, and we'll watch you do it. And it happens different times. Henry, when he came back, 3 months. The 68-year-old guy got it in 3 months. He didn't have it,
The
but
body's
but
miraculous.
he was so pissed off
Yeah.
at the thought of having a stroke and being in diapers in some crazy Australian nursing home.
Yeah, that's where
So
you want to be.
he got super motivated. So this blood flow is super important. Now, blood flow for guys, blood flow improves all over, but a big area of blood flow is erectile functioning.
Yeah.
So male, do you have any male clients in Primal Bod?
We do have a men's program.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm not active in that part of it. I just sell them the online course. I don't communicate with them over email sometimes if they're not getting results. But
So if they get rid of their visceral fat, get rid of the other black-hatted horsemen, they'll get better blood flow. They'll shrink their prostate. They'll start peeing like a stallion again.
Yeah.
And their erectile function, they have, some have like nothing, and some have soft and very soft. But here's one. We won't go any detailed discussions with you, Tom. But older clients typically, some of them, if they preserve a client, none of them have this. And what it is blood flow so improved that their erection bounces. Mm-hmm. So from the age of about 14, males, they probably get erectile capability like you're 10 or 8. But when you're a teenager, you get this big bounce.
Yeah.
That just goes away. Mm-hmm. And not a man thinks about it.
Yeah.
Just gone.
Yeah.
But my clients, I get their erectile capability and the bounce comes back. And they talk about they don't talk about the bounce, but they talk about blood flow in the client group. But then they're messaging, I got the bounce! And it starts real small. And then it gets really big.
Uh-oh.
And that big, you want a huge bounce because it says, I'm a badass.
Yeah.
And that's when you really have optimized blood flow. You can sprint like the wind. You can do push-ups. Mm-hmm. You can play ping pong. Everything is biologically optimized when you got that level of degree. So reproduction is strongly correlated with health. And we'll get into it just coming up right now.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it comes up. show you the scan right here. All right, so this guy, 64 years old, big pharma executive. He arrives here. He's been married 24 years, no children to his wife. She was 11 years younger than he was, so he married a little bit younger. And so he had a big belly. They were infertile. He was sterile. And then 5 months later, he's lost his visceral fat. He's now sprinting, doing all the strategies, and he's sending me selfies, back, and we'll get into selfies in a little bit. He's sending me selfies of himself back in Texas, and he calls me up one night. He said, "You're not gonna believe it. I got my wife pregnant for the first time." So they had no kids because it turns out visceral fat suppresses. We looked at semen counts. It suppresses your sperm count. 3 factors: sperm counts drop, sperm swim much slower, and sperm don't swim straight, they swim in circles. So now we study it in the National Science Foundation. It's a powerful biomarker of health. And so you have this capability of actually optimizing your fertility and your reproductive capability by getting rid of that visceral fat. Only nobody knows about it. None of the fertility doctors know about this. And so it's a very powerful marker. So we now have, for our clients that are infertile, we work with them. Where do I have that video? Right there. So this is one of my clients who's got a fertility issue. And so his counts are small, and he's got a lot of these circle, sperms that don't swim so great. All right, one other client, this guy showed up, arrived, big, huge belly. And 3 months later, look what that guy did. 3 months.
That's insane.
He's a total alpha. But look at his scans. This is him week 0, and this is him at about week 12. So he goes from here to here.
Yeah.
Big chunk of fat around his heart. He's reduced it. And by time the 3rd month shows up, this is just 3 months. Look how much he improved himself.
Oh my gosh, that's a ton.
Yeah. This guy was super motivated.
Wow.
And so this guy, six months afterwards, he told me, he goes, "When I left your home, Sean," he goes, his name is Alvaro. He says, "I killed the old Alvaro on my drive to the airport. I killed him. And I just created a whole new life for myself."
I love that.
And he got himself motivated. So now he's a very, very active client. You'll see him in the client group and be involved in it. All right, these are faces. So we follow facial health. This was me in my 20s. And then me 48, and you can see the accumulation of visceral fat just turns me into looking like that.
Holy shnikes.
Yeah.
You're like a completely different person.
Yeah. My relatives don't recognize me.
That's nuts.
My niece says that was never Uncle Sean.
Wow.
But that was me.
Yeah, that's wild.
And here I weigh 165. Today I weigh 178. So it's not because I lost weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just lost disease.
Yes.
People need to understand, we want you to lose disease.
Yeah.
Not weight. You're going to lose disease. And then look what happens. Look what happens.
It's incredible.
So everybody's face worsens until they find out these powerful biomarkers and the strategies. It's not just finding out. You got to change your life and do the strategies. And and then the comparison. I put the two,
That's a big one.
side by side, so you can see
That is
how
nuts.
it looks like a completely different person.
Completely.
So you cannot overestimate how destructive the influence visceral fat has in the body.
Yeah.
People just don't
get it.
understand that.
Yeah.
So if you get it to your clients and you can reach these women in Primal Bod, you can say, this is how much you're going to improve the quality of your life by getting rid of this disease.
Yeah.
It's not lowering your numbers, it's getting rid of disease to improve the quality of your life.
Yeah.
And then this is what we market. Who are you going to buy a house from? Who are you going to follow into battle? Who would you trust your life? Who do you want to get life, career altering advice from?
Yeah.
And it's biology. We pay attention to people that look like they live well because they might help us live well.
Yes.
And so that's what I try to try to attract those clients that want to live better, be better.
You guys hear that? Is that on tape for Robert, my 17-year-old, and Grafton?
Yeah.
Both of those two
I know,
need to hear
those
that.
two are gonna
17-year-old
stand
or
next.
9-year-old.
All right, whoops. Let me look at this this picture. This guy here is another client who came to me. He had MS, and he called me up and said, "Can you help me? I have MS. Nobody can help me. My doctors, I've been to doctors all over the country." And he said, "Will visceral fat help?" I said, "Well, I'd like to say that I have in our studies from the National Science Foundation, 6,000 people, that it does help MS, but none of those patients had MS." I said, "But why don't you be the first one to try? What do you have to lose except for your visceral fat?"
Yeah.
So this guy arrived looking like this, and in 9 months, look how much he improved his face
Yep.
and his nose. Dramatic improvement is that
like
nose.
A totally different nose.
Yeah, it's like another subset of a biomarker on the face is your nose. So this signals.
That's a nose job.
And he had a very lean nose when he was younger, and he just didn't pick up on the fact that
Lost
people
it, yeah.
think, your noses grow. They don't. They get diseased. And so they're just not paying attention to it. So now this guy's MS is in remission. His symptoms, he's more in remission. His lesions are reversing on MRI. And his neurologist can't explain it. They've never seen it. And then because he did it, another client came to me, and that client was only 38, and that client reversed all his symptoms and all his lesions are reversed on the MRI scan. Yeah. And then I had my third patient just arrived, who's a wife of a guy who's a chairman of board of a big, huge international company that does $2 billion a year. So huge, huge company. And he brought his wife. I encouraged him to bring his wife. And she's got MS. And she didn't want to go because she has no control of her urine. Mm-hmm. She can't be in an airplane. She just loses urine all the time, has to have diapers and stuff. And I said, "Please bring that woman. I will do everything I can to help her out." Mm-hmm. I said, we've reversed MS on 2 patients. Let's try it with her. So she's been to every doctor, taken every drug, had all sorts of procedures, and nothing helped her with her urinary incontinence with her MS. 6 months later, cured. Mm-hmm. All gone. Yeah. All gone. Just by doing these MRIs and doing these strategies. So
are they just pissed because no one else told them?
Yeah.
They just
so mad. But this guy was her husband was a smart guy because he had 2 heart attacks under Cleveland Clinic's executive health program. 10 years. He didn't become chairman of the board of a $2 billion corporation by suddenly, making it big as a barista in Starbucks.
Yeah.
This guy had been in the business world a long time. So he's going to executive health program, and he says, "Really, is this all you're going to do? Mm-hmm. I have heart attacks, and you're going to put stents in me? Mm-hmm. How about preventing these heart attacks? Mm-hmm. I mean, if I hadn't made it here, I'd be dead."
Yeah.
And the chief of cardiology looks at him and he goes, "Is there nothing else we're going to do here?" And that chief goes to him, "Yeah, you need to do one thing. You need to go see this doctor in Minnesota mm-hmm. and get rid of your visceral fat." Mm-hmm. So that he sends that guy to me, and changed his whole life and his wife's life. Yeah. And so now that guy sends me other clients. So they see
mm-hmm.
they don't, the conventional system. He can't use his Cleveland Clinic email. He has to use his private email to keep it secret because nobody knows about visceral fat. And you start talking about visceral fat to doctors, and they think you're crazy because they say it can't be important, or we would have learned about it in medical school.
Yeah.
That's the typical ideology that they have. So
yeah, it's dogmatic.
Yeah, very, very much like that. Here's a lady, very pretty face. She's made it to the swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated 2022. Do you know this model? Mm-mm. So she's got a pretty face, and it's very interesting. So I put it in. Look at her body. So she's very heavy. Yeah. But the thing is, she's got a pretty face. Yeah. So what that tells me, if we scanned her, mostly superficial subcutaneous fat, and she'd have very little visceral fat. Mm. And so that superficial subcutaneous fat is protective on her. Now she's got too much. She's not going to be a fantastic sprinter, a high performer. So she's gone overboard with it. But thank God she went overboard on that, not visceral fat. Mm-hmm. And so her face is still pretty enough to make the cover of that magazine. Uh-huh. And so What's interesting is if you look back in history, my mother was an artist, and you studied the Renaissance periods when the masters were around painting and sculpting. They often painted cherubic women with very effeminate faces and natural vasodilatation, natural color. They were very beautiful. And the masters back then spent a lot of time painting and sculpting because they'd have to be around them for a long time, so they're not going to paint some dude. You know, they'd have a pretty girl in front of them, and they're attracted to them. So one of the reasons why they're attracted to these cherubic women is they're more healthy. And we see it even today. What's that old rap song? I cannot tell a lie. I like big butts. Superficial adiposity tends to deposit on the buttocks of women and on their thighs. And so if you have a little cherubic character to you, it's health protective and beneficial. And cherubs were painted. Kids, babies, if God forbid they get cut and they get lacerations, first thing you see is fat. Pops right out. They have cherubic arms and cherubic hands and figures. They've got this very protective layer of subcutaneous fat, which gives them super healthy, adorable faces. Now, we think their faces are cute, but really it's screaming at you, healthy, healthy, healthy. And as you get older and really old, you lose that subcutaneous fat, and you have gaunt, skeleton-like faces, and you see nothing but veins in little old ladies' arms. And some people can eat fruit and honey if they have a microbiome that allows them to metabolize it. But most of those girls, your primal body, they have lost that. They're coming to you because they've had a period of being overweight, they're metabolic unhealthy, and they just cannot eat anything sweet again.
The roller coaster ride is over.
They can't. They did it too long. Too much.
We have the real.
Yeah,
exactly.
Send it to me. I'd love to see the
They
real.
come from, I did a Zoom on Paul Saladino because the girls are like, let's do a Zoom on him, because I have so many women that went through his program that have to come to mine because they put on 20, 30 pounds eating fruit and meat. And they're like, I was eating freaking pretty much like Mediterranean before I saw what Paul Saladino was doing and switched to meat and fruit. And now I'm 30 pounds heavier.
Do you know what happens to my blood sugar if I eat fruit and a ribeye? I'll go to 300 and I can't get it down for 2 days because the fat locks the insulin in, and you cannot get your blood sugar down. It destroys you.
Paul talked me into, just for the sake of science, trying honey twice. I separated by 2 weeks, and both times jacked up, raised my blood sugars, raised them up high, and the other thing, it took away my visible pulses. Gone, completely away, and I'm like, F that.
No, not worth it.
So you want those protective adiponectin, and we see it in those those women. And the other interesting, I have clients, female clients or followers rather, they'll write me and they say, one of my biggest mistakes I did was get liposuction, and they get rid of that adiponectin protective superficial subcutaneous fat, and they go, and you know what, I found out, one, my health deteriorated, and the second thing, my face got ugly. It made their faces harsh, so they get dude looks, like dude faces. And so women with six-pack, you want a six-pack, you just don't want to see it. You want that protective fat, layer of fat over. I have a six-pack, but mine's covered with this fat. And so I keep a healthy layer of adiponectin on my six-pack so that, I have the benefit of adiponectin. All right, John's going to be down here in just a minute, but let me try to get through this real quick. All right, so this is me age 55. I didn't have any visceral fat. Once you get rid of it, it takes a while to get rid of it. Then you can start putting on muscle mass. So I go from 55 to age 59 to put on a huge amount of muscle mass. So one of the interesting things, though, that happens during this time is if you go to gyms and you work out, you'll see that mostly they're guys like your boys' age, and they're working out. Not too many. They're not guys like in their 50s and 60s or women in their 50s, 60s. So the question is, why aren't the older guys in there doing it? They never see any results. Are you going to go do a job if you're not going to get paid? So why are you going to go to gym if you lift weights and you see any difference? You don't see any benefit. Now the benefit the young people get is they see hypertrophy. So I tell my clients, I'll take your ass in there and lock you up for 6 months, have you lift weights with one of my boys, and they'll put on muscle and you won't, because you got visceral fat inside. That's what's going on.
That's what Robert struggles with.
So get rid of that visceral fat, and then you'll start putting it on. And here's the thing when I'm going to talk about selfies right here. If you look at my photographs, my wife thinks I'm a narcissist. I'm like, I'm a researcher. So I got all these pictures of me tracking change. So this is me last year, July 2023, 10:45 a.m. on July 23rd of 2023. And then 15 minutes later, look at that big pump I got.
Yeah.
And so here's check out that vessel right there, and see how much more plumped is in there. So what's going on there? That's nitric oxide from the elimination of visceral fat. Now I get this huge pump when I work out in just a few minutes. And that's why young guys and young girls go to gyms, they work out, and they're doing selfies. It's nature compelling them. That's how they get paid.
Yeah.
These boys are getting paid when they work out.
Yeah.
And their pay is they see that benefit. And they're standing in front of the mirrors. I know they're in the mirrors in the bathrooms at home. And they're flexing and doing that because that's how you're getting paid. Nature drives you to do that. But if you weren't getting healthy, you would never do that. You wouldn't stand in front of those mirrors looking at. And my clients in my 50s and 60s don't do that when they have visceral fat, and then they start doing it when they get visceral fat, and then they start posting photographs and stuff. That's why the guy was sending me the selfie, because they start
I
achieving that. So
love it.
all
I
right.
love when they send selfies.
Have you seen these photographs?
No.
All right. So what is the time period from this guy to improve his face on the left here that much to the photograph on the right? What time period is in there? I got my fingers behind my hand because I'm going to pull them out and I'm going to show you.
Maybe like a month.
2 months.
Oh, you guys didn't do it. It was 3. 97% of my clients will all say 3 months.
Really?
Yeah, maybe it's because you guys are in this business a little bit more. The truth is, it's 3 days. So don't you want to know what this guy did in 3 days to improve his face that much?
Yeah.
He fasted.
Yeah.
But lots of people fast.
Yeah.
You could take a 70-year-old, have his ass fast for 10 days. He'll have nothing.
Yeah.
So why did this 40-year-old, now these guys, if they fasted for 3 days, they'd get this.
Yeah.
But a 60-year-old will get nothing because they'll have lower amounts of visceral fat. So the visceral fat says, it's like the soup Nazi, no soup for you.
No results.
No results for you, no improvement. So when you fast, you actually get rid of your visceral fat, but you don't see it in your face as much. But once you get rid of that visceral fat, shazam, then you start getting, you're back like these guys. It's like the fountain of youth has beset you again at the age of 40, 50, or 60.
Yeah.
And so that's what you guys are going to know. So when you get rid of this visceral fat, you're going to go to new
Free
levels.
facelift for everybody.
And people, actually, one of my clients came from New York City. She's a VP of a company. One of her good friends is a plastic surgeon. So she showed this, her friend, my face, my changes.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, wow, Jess, he's had work on his face. She thought, she said that I had plastic surgery. She could not entertain the fact that was all nature. She just couldn't grasp that was actually the case.
Yeah.
All right, so the model for this is right here. There's a stimulus that gets imparted to an organism. There's a response. The stimulus usually is lifting weights. The organism's muscle gets damaged. There's recovery, which produces hypertrophy. So the muscles come back better. So it's just stress hormetics. Okay, stress hormesis is the model for that. But it happens to everything: a sauna, sunshine, fasting, eating appropriately. All these hormetic mechanisms will always work better in the healthy organism than the unhealthy. And so you get rid of that visceral fat, and you will be able to preserve this into well past the 20s and 30s into a much older age. Another one is telangiectasias. So these are telangiectasia spider veins. A quick, easy way to see it is in thin skin, so we can see them in eyelids. So we'll take photographs of yours. And then the medial aspects of people's ankles is another place they get it. And females get them on their thighs. And then males get them on their skin. their foreskin of their penis. And so young guys come in.
You have them.
We'll check them for hernias. Old guys or young guys will have just tan skin. It'll be clean, no telangiectasias. A 6-year-old guy come in, I got to check him for a hernia, and it looks like a damn purple kielbasa
Yeah.
in front of me. Ugh!
Yeah.
And so these telangiectasias will reverse as you get rid of your visceral fat.
Okay.
The other cool thing is, if you go out in the sunshine, you take pictures of this, you go out in the sunshine, and 20 minutes later, they're improved from nitric oxide. But nobody knows. Because dermatologists and doctors don't want you. They're trained to tell you to go out in the sun. Do you see how nature just heals people?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Through blood flow.
Yeah.
Same thing with the sauna. If you track your telangiectasias, you go into a sauna, they reverse in just a few minutes. And then they come back when you leave the sauna. Eventually, you'll see it will stay long. The improvement stays longer and longer. And so these telangiectasias will improve sauna, sunshine, sprinting. If you sprint, not jog, but sprint, will reverse your telangiectasias in just a few seconds of sprinting. And then the fourth one is extended fasting. So I'm on an extended fast today. I'm at 92 hours right now. 92 hours. Well, actually, I'm at 93 hours. So the fasting will reverse that as well. So I get my clients fasting about 72 to 96 hours straight a week. All right, let's take a look at sprinting, because this is the client that was sterile, the big pharmaceutical executive. So he's running outside, and we take videos, and I don't know if we'll be able to do you, but this guy's 64, and look at that's as fast as he can sprint. And look how little he gets his knees up. I mean, it looks like a damn jog.
Oh,
Are
yeah.
you kidding me?
Yeah.
We tell our clients, run as fast as you can. That's as fast as that guy could run.
Yeah.
So now look at me in my
keep enough
60s
power on
sprinting. I sprint a lot faster, get my knees way higher, and the difference. And when we go through this, I'll just pull this back and show you how we do it.
Are you charging that battery? Charge the Rona, because if we sprint, we can get the most epic,
Oh yeah.
awesome footage. I want
okay.
it, like it would be like your fucking banner for your website.
Oh, okay,
Is
let's
this-
do it.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
He needs to charge that camera, because
Yeah.
we need to get that bad.
Yeah, get that.
Yes.
Because John will be coming down here about 15 minutes,
Yeah.
20 minutes. We can make it. There'll be some other things that you could get a charge in 45 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. We'll be good.
So what we do is, if we can freeze frame these photographs to get these angles, okay, and we capture and then we analyze it. So I'm just going to show you. By the way, I didn't see any book or anything. This is just observation. Someone died. Fucker loves this. I figured this out because nobody else is doing this. So I had to figure this out on my own. So I track. You don't want to look like this guy. You don't want to perform like this guy. So I study the hell out of this, and I realized it's angles. Yeah. You track the angle formed from the spine there to the femur. The bigger that angle, the bigger the fat depot of visceral fat. And the smaller that angle, see how small that angle is?
Yeah.
The smaller the visceral fat. So visceral fat goes to performance, how you look and how you perform.
Yep.
And so we can see that in those angles. And also at toe off, how the degree to which you extend your leg. Look how maximally extended my leg is, and how maximally extended my knee is, and my forward leg and my trailing leg. I make all these terms up because nobody else is doing this stuff. And foot extension. And if you look closely right there, that's grass-fed, grass-finished hamburger patties from Costco and kimchi right there. I threw that in there.
Bingo.
It just had to be there because I came from the store and had it out there, and when I was doing my sprinting. And so here's my son Liam. So he's got great angles because he's young and he has like no visceral fat. So his angles are fantastic. Well, when I took this photograph, and I took photographs of people jogging, they look horrible. When I took this photograph, that intimidated the hell out of me because I've sprinted against this kid since he was a little kid. And so, and I always beat him. And when he did this last year, I was like, I I'm not going to race him today. I said, he was 14 here. I said,
Yeah.
he's going to beat me. I said, it was vanity. I said, I'm going to wait till he's 15 and then I'll sprint him. Be the next time he's 15 in like 4 months. And then I'll say, well, yeah, I could always beat you until you hit 15 instead of 14. I'll get one more year out. But even when I raced him at 15, I could still beat him. So I still can out sprint my son. He doesn't like that. And so only 2 people in my family, my 2 oldest boys, can out sprint me right now. And I'll show you their pictures. This is my 2 oldest boys. They're a lot bigger today than this photograph.
Wow.
So
Handsome guy.
they're both, yeah. He's got such a fat ass looking face. He's more shy than the other one. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cute.
God,
That's cute.
they're so shy, these kids. This guy is a second lieutenant now in the Army, and this guy is going to start his first year down at Texas A&M. So.
Exciting.
But yeah, these angles can be revealed in these photographs.
Yeah.
So that's why we spend a lot of time doing it. All right. So we're starting at your chest, probably about this level here, and we're going to scan down and lower sequentially, all the way from your upper abdomen down into your lower abdomen. So this is center mass of your right lung, your left lung.
Yeah.
So we see your heart right there. This is your aorta, your largest artery in your body, your vertebral body. And we can see fat already surrounding your aorta. So that's your first sign of disease that we're taking a look at. And it's a thing that you've got right now. I can see a modest amount of inflammatory fat perivascularly around that vessel, but we'll to keep an eye on that, because if that increases as were you to get older, and I would bet it's going to go away. You would run the risk, however, if it was persistent or increasing, of causing an aneurysm of your aorta. So in the upper aorta or in your thoracic region, less likely a problem, but typically as you get around in the larger areas of visceral fat around in your abdomen, then you get what's called an abdominal aortic aneurysm, and those kill people in seconds. They just rupture, and they never tell you. They tell you got one, they can pick up on it, but they never tell you what you can do to get rid of it, because they don't know. The simple answer is get rid of your visceral fat. And you're a ticking time bomb, and nobody tells you that. So that's your first sign. And you do have fat already in your muscles.
Yeah, I see that.
So we're going to just keep skinning down. So there's a big chunk of fat around your heart already at this particular level. We can see 4-chamber views of your heart, and we'll keep skinning down. But yeah, that's another first sign of cardiac fat around your heart. And a little bit more. A little bit more. So pretty thick. Don't like seeing that as a young lady, do you? That's highly inflammatory fat surrounding arguably your single most important organ, your heart. And so directly approximate up against that are your arteries outside your outside your heart. They line the outside of your heart. They're not in your muscle. They're on the outside. So it makes them real easy to get to for cardiothoracic reasons if you need to have a bypass procedure. But interesting, on autopsies, people that die from heart attacks, those arteries are always on the outside, except for sometimes there's a variant where a segment will dive down into the muscle of the heart. And where it dives down, now it's in the muscle, so it's protected. It's like insulation around a wire. It's just muscle surrounding that artery. And in those segments, it's spared from atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease because it's not up against that fat.
Okay.
So you want to get rid of that fat. You want absolutely none. I'm 61. I got none. I don't got a drop of it. It's just a black heart. So that right there.
3 months. Give me 3 months.
Yes.
It'll be gone.
3 months, baby.
I think
We'll be back.
you think you will eradicate that in easily 3 months. So and then now we're at the bottom of your heart, and you can see how thick that's gotten.
Yeah, we're heading
That
into
is,
visceral fat cell.
That is, I mean, honestly, more than I was anticipating. But this will happen first and foremostly from a disrupted microbiome, and a big player will be diet. So, and my guess, were you ever heavy? I don't know your story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
My
yeah?
whole life I've fought with it.
Oh.
Yeah. So in high school, I was easily 175, 185 pounds.
Good God. There you
Then
go.
when I gave birth to him, I was over 200. So then I was a vegan for 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I fucked around
So
a lot.
you had a lot of
I
carbohydrates.
smoked till I was 25. From
Oh.
the age of 15 till I was about 28, 29 when I quit smoking.
Thank God you got the analysis right here and you ended up. All right.
I know.
So this is just residual disease from those former days.
Yeah.
But now cutting out carbohydrates and do these 48 strategies that we're going to leave you with. They will eviscerate this heart fat, muscle fat, visceral fat, deep subcutaneous fat, and just optimize your health. So, but yeah, this is a big wake-up call that you got that big chunk of inflammatory fat surrounding your most vital organ. And just think about, that heart with all that fat around it is not beating
why I
as
have
well.
a hard time catching my breath and stuff when I run.
Your cardiovascular performance will not be
Nope.
it's
'Cause
severely
all the
impaired
fats in
by all
there
that.
suffocating me.
Yep. And so we literally see the heart's position change as that fat is evolved. And then it positions properly, perfectly in your chest to beat appropriately. It's phenomenal. And the same thing with visceral fat. Your diaphragms, your lungs will work much better. Performance significantly improves. So, yeah, this is so good to see this at your young age. So, look how thick it is there. So that's the very bottom of your heart. This is your liver just starting to come up now. And look how thick now that
got-
fat is
it
shown
got.
up around your aorta.
You got some work to do.
So big chunk right at the bottom of your heart. Huge. Look how thick that is. Crazy thick. I mean, you might as well know. The
He's
camera's
giving me
gone.
the challenging eyes. Like, Candy, what are you going to do about this, girl?
I don't think I've seen a thickness that thick in a 44-year-old. So this is your vegan days, your days of metabolic disease, and but you can tell yourself, thank God, you've done the things intervening that you did, because otherwise it would be way worse.
Who knows what it would be like?
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way. You wouldn't be here because you wouldn't be able to make the healthy decisions to be this enthusiastic and aggressive about optimizing your health. But, wow. So we'll keep scanning down. There's your liver in full force. Okay. Your stomach there, spleen actually. So all these areas of weights coming in are visceral fat. Big chunks of it.
Can you see kidney stones and stuff in there?
We won't see stones, but I can point out your kidneys.
Yeah.
Right kidney, left kidney. Looks like you may have a renal cyst right there.
Yeah, that makes sense because I've had kidney pain my whole life.
That's your gallbladder.
Is that will kidney function improve as visceral fat declines?
Oh yes, significantly. because you'll improve blood flow.
Yeah.
Blood flow to the kidneys is how we improve renal function.
Okay.
So kidneys are super important. It's one of my superpowers is how I pee. So when you eat grass-fed beef, I don't know if you saw my reel on this. Older people, you can give them vitamins and their urine doesn't really change. You give healthy middle-aged people vitamins and kids vitamins and their pee turns yellow. Mm-hmm. This is when you're a biological badass. We put a freaking grass-fed, grass-finished ribeye in front of you. You take that brown, red flesh and you turn it into green pea. That's when you're a biological badass. Mm. You can absorb those nutrients from your gut is so healthy, your microbiome is so healthy. It takes an extraordinary amount of nutrients that's in that flesh of that animal, and you you are so healthy that it pees out the excess vitamins that you don't need. Everybody else is so deficient, they're holding on to it, and they cannot extract those nutrients from that piece of brown red flesh. And so my clients are starting to pee green. I was the first one to notice it myself. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here?
Oh shit.
That I'm peeing green. But so I walk around in drug screens. When I was in the Army, everybody has to walk around their vial of urine in front of everybody else. It's kind of weird. We're all walking around. Everybody's got yellow. Mine is green. It looks like, kind of like a radiator fluid, that kind of fluorescent green. It's a really nice looking green. I mean, I would call Julius, check out this, look at this, and she was like, wow, that is really interesting. And so it's a really attractive green look. And I get it when I eat really healthy animals. And so I call it the ultimate bioflex. That's what you really want to get. Okay. So you want to have a super healthy kidney, super healthy gut. It's everything working together. But yeah, look at the density of that visceral fat that you have. And that fat is around your colon there. So we'll keep skinning down. Now, your muscles aren't too bad, but I can see that they're fairly small because of the influence of previous existing visceral fat. So you've lost a lot of your visceral fat. You've lost a lot of your muscle mass. We can see that visceral myosteatosis in your muscles and in your recti spinae muscles. So, and we see this as we're scanning down now, all that white is visceral fat and big chunk of fat, visceral fat right there. So as we scan down more, we're going to see it persistent in those other levels. So now we're at the level of your belly button. Yeah. All that white. So remember that distance where you can see you want this to be kissing so get rid of all that white so they get up there and start kissing. And you get to have a black oval. You want a black oval. You want all your muscles black. You don't want these white streaks. You want your ovals, your obliques nice and big and dominant, and you want your recti spinae free of that persistent fat. So, and you just see that all distributed throughout your abdomen there, that visceral fat. Just all that white. I would have loved to scan you, 5-10 years ago, Candy.
When I was, really unhealthy.
All right, so we're at the midpoint of your abdomen. We're going to switch and go to your lower abdomen and scan down and see some more. So let's see what we can find here.
Don't worry, Sean. 3 months. Give me 3 months and it's all gone.
All right.
Are you going to show the girls this?
Yeah.
Do you need a special
Yes.
app to open these up, or are these just images?
On your CD, they will open up once you play them on your laptop. And then what I would do is I'd take your best cameras and take images that you want of those.
Okay.
Take some. You can do some video, or you can just take some nice quality photos.
Yeah.
Blow it up, and they'll be this good on your laptop.
Okay.
As long as you have a decent laptop, you'll have those images. But yeah, so these will be, and you want to tell, look, this is me. But this isn't going to be me in 3 months, and most of you will be way worse than me. The MRI ends the lie. You're not as healthy as you think.
Yeah.
Everybody imagines that they're more healthy till they come here and we show them
truth.
otherwise.
The truth is the
It
truth.
just, we just don't
The
know
truth doesn't
until
care
you get
about
that.
your belief.
No,
The truth
not
goes
how
rules
you.
for your
It's not
beliefs.
your thinking. So look how much visceral fat is in there. Doesn't that piss the hell out of you?
Yeah.
God. Yeah. So.
Oh, butt cheeks.
Yeah, but your before and after. Seriously, you've got to be motivated. Yeah. So Tom's your money guy. You use all this pre-tax dollars, and all your follow-up MRIs are nothing more than a business expense.
Yeah.
It's just a metric to improve you,
Yeah.
you both, and and your cameramans. Get these guys scanned. Invest in them. Get them scanned. Order scans on them in Madison, and we'll get them scanned. But look at all that. So you want to have this thing, and I could see the real. This was me 3 months ago, but this is why I lead this company, and I have improved myself. And look what I did in 3 months. You change from the outside. You change from the inside. You set that example and go after them.
Bingo.
So God, that is surprising.
That is not yet a primal bod.
No, but it just shows you. Do you have any carbohydrates coming in? Are you eating?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do? Oh,
Yeah,
God,
I mean, I eat some yogurt, and on occasion I'll have a piece of fruit. That's like maybe once every couple weeks.
Any cheating like muffins or bread or
No.
pasta?
God, no. No.
Okay, so fruit and yogurt. All right. So I would cut those out. You got to just go hardcore. I would do meat and ferments.
Yeah.
And every time you have a craving for fruit, you answer it with a ferment. You attack it. When you got...
I don't really get cravings for fruit. I just will eat it if Tom's eating it and he's like, oh, this is really good. Try it. And then I'll eat a little bit
Damn,
of it.
it's like a Bible story. Like it's reverse. It's like,
I know.
it's Adam going after Eve.
Yeah, I don't really like hardly any.
Okay.
I guess not enough to do anything.
Well,
I
won't
don't think,
be.
but-
I won't be.
And so cut out the yogurt. Oftentimes yogurts aren't fermented long enough, so they have residual lactose. And so
just
that
sugar.
is, you just contribute to
And
your
I've been
visceral.
eating yogurt for about a month now. Every
More
day.
than that.
Every
More
day?
than that.
Oh, okay, yeah, cut that out.
Yeah.
Yep.
No more yogurt.
Yep, no more.
Okay,
Yogurt
10-4.
tends to be the thing to get. And
Gets in the way.
what it does is it's feeding microbes inside of your gut that are causing that visceral fat. So we're just going to kill them. We're going to cut off their supply. We're going to do an army plan, military plan, battle plan. We're going to cut off their supply. We're going to kill them. And then we're going to put soldiers in there, and they're not going to come back, take the territory again.
Yeah.
That is just that's a large amount of visceral fat. That is a large amount.
Shut up. Yours hasn't even.
I
went there
know.
yet.
I know.
So, yeah, that.
Okay.
So look at all that white in there. Now as we go down again to your love handle regions, remember I told you a scarpus fascia would be higher in this way, so we can see that in your case. So you do have some protective, good amount of superficial subcutaneous fat protective, of you. But that visceral fat is way too high. Your deep subcutaneous fat too high. Your muscle fat too high. Your heart fat was too high. And this is your colon surrounded by visceral fat. So 0 chance you would be a 70 or 80-year-old without constipation and struggling to have a bowel movement.
Yeah, it's the visceral fat that's causing the.
Yeah, it's just going to inflame that colon, and then your beautiful peristaltic movements that are programmed and automatic and happen,
It paralyzes it.
It does. It
Yeah.
completely disrupts it. And I tell people, it sounds kind of exaggerated or crude, but it really, your bowel movement, active defecation, should be like an orgasm. It should be like a reflex that's very programmed. And if you remember these boys and all your children, when you had them and they had bowel movements, they would get this strange little happy smile on their face. Their faces would turn red. They get these smiles because it would feel so good to have a bowel movement. And we've gotten away from it. Now it becomes a chore because we're so diseased. And now my clients are reporting, they talk about it. A lot of times they'll message me privately about it, how incredibly good feeling defecation has become, how much faster it turns into, a bowel movement turns into an act that lasts between 3 and 7 seconds. And a perfectly shaped stool, so smooth, tapered on both ends. But you can see where, and that's in people that have no visceral fat. After they got rid of it, it starts happening. So you can see the assault that happens. And then I'm going to take you anecdotally into my world as an ER physician. And I have these patients probably every single day coming to our ER. They couldn't walk in. They would be brought in by stretcher from a nursing home. And the complaint would be constipation. So guess how long they're waiting to see an ER physician with a complaint, constipation.
Yeah.
So finally they get to see me. They can't even sit up. They're in a bed because they're bedridden. And they would be laying down, no hands underneath them. They'd just be laying down like this on the bed. Doctor, if I could just have a bowel movement. That's their complaint. Takes it forever to get out. They've fallen apart that much. But you guys are here, and you can stop that from ever happening, preventing that from happening. You get rid of your visceral fat, so you guys become this effectively biologically optimized people that Tom is peeing over the hood of a car.
Yep.
And
Bingo, baby.
You're defecating like a champion.
Yeah.
Over
You
an
have
M8.
just super healthy bowel movements.
That sounds good to me.
So you you look like you have a little diverticular disease already. So we'll see if that gets read. You see those little circles?
Yeah.
Those little dots? They seem to be air-filled pockets within your sigmoid colon. And it's a small amount, but it's an early amount of chronic disease already in your colon.
Probably all the vegan years of being
Yes, all those carbohydrates and visceral fat destroying the walls, and they cause outpouches, basically hernias in the wall of the colon. And so your colon is already falling apart and you're not even middle-aged. So, and it's just, unfortunately an undetected disease that if you knew about it earlier, it would tick you off. But the radiologists will report if they see it, but oftentimes they wait till they see a significant amount. Yours early, so we'll see if the radiologist agrees with me. But we'll keep scanning down. Look, it's just you're mostly visceral fat inside. Do you know what afflicts 50% of our population, which are women? 50% of women in the United States are afflicted with a condition called pelvic organ prolapse. At some point in their life, their beautiful female anatomy
Fall
starts.
out the tank.
Yes.
All my girls have it. They
Yes.
complain about it.
Yeah. And look, it's from all this visceral fat. Just Google it. Visceral fat, pelvic organ prolapse. And not one of your girls, not one of your clients will have been told by a doctor that what you need to do is get rid of your visceral fat.
No.
They just say go to like therapy and try, what do you call those Kegel squeezes.
Do some Kegels.
Yeah. And then
never
wait
works.
for surgery, eventually when it prolapses, they take you up to surgery, start pulling it up. Well, it's
you a
because
bladder
of the
sling.
muscles all weakening, the pelvic floor musculature all weakening because of that visceral fat. It's crazy. It's like cancer being ignored.
Yeah.
And it's half our women population, get this, afflicted. Now they come in the ER with, pink and purple tissues coming out through their vagina, like so upset.
Yeah.
And you call the gynecologist down, and sometimes they'd be trying to push it up and put pessaries, these like plastic vices, and I'd hear the women in there screaming with the pain. It was so barbaric.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and now I'm a physician, I see what the heck is going on. I'm like, this is insanity.
Yeah.
That nobody's doing anything about it. So you tell your women, that have this condition get rid of their visceral fat, immediately get MRI scans, and attack this problem. So, but yeah, there's zero chance you would avoid this at the age of 44 if you have that.
Yeah.
And we're just going to scan down a little bit lower. So, so look at all that visceral fat around your rectum.
Yeah.
So do you want to be grandma who gets up from the couch and spontaneously lets gas
No.
loose because you have no control, because you lost all your rectal tone?
No.
So that's the first thing starts happening. You start passing gas without any control. And guys, it starts happening about in their 30s when they start peeing. They start passing gas when they
Yeah.
pee because they've lost detrusor muscle tone. They've lost rectal muscle tone from this
Yeah.
inflammation forming around the rectum. And the end stage of it is complete tonal impairment, and you end up having incontinence, and you're wearing diapers. So
He's
you need
got
to speak,
visceral fat, I know.
speak that reality. So all that fat around your important rectum, and you want to avoid that from happening. And of course, invading all your pelvic structures. And as we go down lower, so these are your glutes. When you were a 13, 14-year-old, you had beautiful buttocks.
Yeah.
But now your buttocks have shrunk.
Yeah.
You've lost that tonicity
Yeah.
that you should have. And look at the fat inside of them, invading those tissues.
Yeah.
You want a perky butt. You want a perky butt not to look good in a bikini, except for the fact that I want to follow and do what that lady does.
Yeah.
She's 60 years old. She's got a
Yeah.
great butt. But it's your butt that gets you out of a chair.
Yeah.
So you want to have a super healthy butt. Allows you to carry groceries. Allow you to pick up great grandchildren and great grandchildren and great great grandchildren. Because we're going to get both you guys living to be 120. There are going to be lots of babies coming in because of you guys. So these muscles have got to grow, and they got to become more healthy. Got to get rid of all this inflammation around, and this is why women get cancer, reproductive, carcinomas. So, yeah, no lie, way worse than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, but
Not
now
me.
I hear you're vegan, you were heavy, you were 200 pounds. I get it. But that was old you, and this is you today, but that's not going to be you in 3 months.
I just started eating carnivore, like 2 years ago?
Year and a
And
half.
I'm not the strictest carnivore, but before that I was paleo for like 10 years.
Okay.
So lots of fruit.
Yeah.
I'd eat oatmeal on occasion,
Oof.
or, whatever junky shit I thought was good for me, smoothies, whatever junky shit I thought was good
Yeah.
for me at the time.
Yeah.
But we'd eat grass-fed organic everything, and I never considered blood sugar or visceral fat or anything like that,
God, well, now you got new insights, new metrics, and now do you see why you got to see this? Because
I can imagine it was
the
3
cheating
times
days
as
are
bad
done.
before.
Yeah.
Cheating
No,
days are-
I can't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
Nope.
I
Once
can't
you
even do
see
yogurt.
this, once you see this, and this is, if I could put those strategies in front of people and they say they're super motivated, and they might do it for a little bit, but they fall away. This keeps you centered and focused,
Yeah.
because you're going to do that. All right, next scans are going to be your legs. We know we're going to see fat in your legs
Oh,
because
yeah,
of
I'm sure.
because of the visceral fat you have in your.
It doesn't surprise me that it's worse than you thought.
Okay, so there's all the fat in your muscles. And we can see already in the first slice, fragmentation starting to happen. And you're not 74, you're 44. And look at that fragmentation already happening. So all that marbleization of those beautiful leg muscles.
We're going down the leg now.
Yeah.
Look at all the fat around it too.
Yeah. Now, I will say, with regard to subcutaneous fat in the thighs, with men, it's aligned with cancer. With women, there isn't the same connection. So the thing is, what we lack in insight and understanding is, my guess is this is superficial and this is deep, but we've never done studies to look at this particular ratio to superficial deep. So my assessment generally goes along the lines, you want more of the superficial and less of the deep. But unfortunately, because of your visceral fat, we see this, women have more deep.
A lot deep.
So you want to get rid of that and have more of this.
Superficial.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
It's actually better. I know it's not good, but it's better than I thought it was going to be. I was expecting it to be just
Atrocious.
marbly.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Marbled.
Yeah, I don't. Just that one guy is really bad.
Yeah.
But your bone marrow's ratios are higher than I would like to see. You got more white to black. So in 30 years, when you were 74, I honestly don't think you'd make it. Your bone would have already fractured. Won't happen now because you see it, but as thin as you already are at 44, by the time you're 74, those legs, that 74-year-old that looks so bad in the middle would look better than you. If we'd scan them back at age 44, they would have better, and when you hit 74, you would be worse. Your muscle would be way more fragmented, bones more thinner. Yeah. So, but this is just you today. 3 months, you're going to be a different person, way less visceral fat. All right, let's look at your brain scan. It's the last one we take a look at.
Dun, 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 dun.
And we'll see. Now, the good news is, typically we don't see any atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease in women. We see it in men. We can in men, but almost never do we see it in women. Okay, so some good news. Too bad Tom's not here to hear this. You are going to get an incredibly attractive face.
Really?
Yeah.
As I age.
If you get rid of that visceral fat.
Yeah.
Because you have so much visceral fat, look where it's showing up.
Right in my.
It's giving you inflammation in your face. So these are targets that we've studied, and it's already published. You can jump on the internet, and these fat depots are lined with visceral fat. And see all that fat there posteriorly?
Yeah.
That's elevated as well too. And you can see this typically in more males. So in males, they'll get rolls of fat.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's just signaling visceral fat. They don't know it, but when you see it, that's just visceral fat. So when you get rid of your visceral fat, your face is going to change just like mine did, and you're going to get this. You'll have you'll have an older appearance, but you'll have a shape of like a teenager's face, and it will tell other men and women to pay attention to this lady. She knows how to live well. These are your arteries. We can see, in longitudinal like this, long ways, and when they're circled like this, we see it in cross section. So we're going to switch now to your. Let me just go up a little bit higher. These are your eyeballs, your orbits, your lens. This is your optic nerve, your cerebellum. Starting to see your cortex. All right, so these are your middle cerebral arteries, and they look good. Okay, no big goombas. So those are the ones that are most stroke out. This is your anterior circulation, your posterior circulation back here. So we're going to keep scanning. Your anterior circulation is pretty strong distally, but then it gets weaker, further out distally. So we'll want to see those open up, turn more white. Further out, so we should be able to see that. Let me just check something here. So it looks like maybe a small lesion right there. Do you see that tapering, that darkness? Yeah. So in all the levels, I can see that persistent little tapering, a little deficit. So we want that to open up and go away. Your posterior circulation on your left side is weaker than your right. Do you see that? These are symmetric. This should be all the way out, but one of your segments looks like it's just not perfusing well at all. So we see that when we repeat it down the road, they'll open up altogether. So, and that area deficiency right there, we can see.
I had a TBI. When was that, honey?
2.5
3
years ago.
4
Really?
years
From
ago.
what?
I slipped on the ice
Ooh.
and hit the back of my head like pretty dang hard. Like forgot who I was for a minute.
My twin, I have an identical twin brother.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
On his honeymoon, his wife got norovirus and was throwing up, got dehydrated, passed out, fell, hit her head, was knocked unconscious, and woke up and had amnesia, didn't know where she was, and didn't even remember marrying my twin.
Oh shit. So you think
He said,
that's
no, we got things to do tonight. You definitely are married.
That's like a Lifetime movie. Like you don't think those things really happen.
No, it happened to
It
my
does.
twin.
I know when I had my concussion, it took me a lot to stay with it. It was during COVID too, and I told Tom, do not take me to the ER. I had a freaking hole in the back of my head. You could probably stick the tip of your finger in. It was pretty gnarly.
Did they, from laceration?
Yeah.
God. Well, I don't see anything in your head that looks like any fractures or subdural masses or anything evidencing any persistent signs. You have some isolated, small segmental disease. You don't want any, but we don't see any big Goombas that I'm thinking you're going to have, you're at risk for having a stroke. But yeah, that's another not great exam. So honestly, I'm super happy for you for all the diseases you have, because this is going to motivate the Hades out of you.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
it it changes everything.
Yeah.
Everything too for what I tell my girls to do. Yeah.
All right, you're up, Tom. You ready?
Let's do it, baby.
Let's see. He was hackling me, so.
All right, so there's your heart.
Okay.
Scanning down, and we can see that peri-aortic fat around your aorta. Tom's aorta is bigger. Heart is bigger. See that in males. So there's your first cardial fat forming already
Okay.
around your heart and more posterior to your heart.
Okay.
And we can see the fat already in your muscles, laying on your back.
Yep.
So, and that ribbon of fat all around your heart, and that is not good for a diabetic.
Nope.
So it's getting thicker. So now we can see anterior, to your mediastinum is that big chunk of fat that's now forming along your heart. So that is not good. We're at that probably the halfway point there, and it's going to get thicker. So there it is, even thicker, really thick for a 37-year-old. I'm gonna wait till we get down to the lower part of your heart. Yeah. Look how thick that is. Almost at the bottom. So for a 37-year-old, you're still so young. Not good to hear, but probably I don't get that many 30-year-olds. Probably the worst I've seen in heart fat.
Okay.
Me and you,
Yep.
baby.
We'll fix it.
So
We'll go to work.
it's going to be a combination of your diabetes. Did
Yeah.
you ever have a history similar to Candy? Like
Oh yeah,
you
he
were
was
heavy?
vegan for 5 years.
Oh God,
not,
you too?
Not super heavy though, but vegan for 5
He
years.
was vegan for 5 years.
So you're eating all those carbs. All right, so that's residual veganism.
carbs.
Yeah.
Vegans come to me and they have huge amounts of visceral fat if they come. And then remember this one vegan physician who's 77, and he came in and I scanned him for free. I mean, he was in the Holistic Medicine Society, and I said, I'm going to scan you, and I wanted to study him because he'd been vegan for so long-term vegan. And I said, we're going to scan you and I'm going to show you all your visceral fat inside your abdomen. And he looked at me such sincerity. Well, oh, Dr. O'Mara, you're not going to see any visceral fat inside of me. I have eaten vegan for 37 years. I have been vegan. I have not eaten any meat products. And I said, well, you're going to have a lot of, and so when we scanned inside of me at 10 pounds, that's equivalent to 40 sticks of butter inside is filled with visceral fat. He looked at that, he went right out the door, started eating meat, and immediately started eliminating his visceral fat. So vegans need to have that look inside because it's so hard. They just don't believe the carnivores. They don't believe. They have to. And you know what? I say don't listen to the studies. Who cares about any study except for the study of one? You. Yeah. You don't even really care about Tom. You love Tom. Yeah. But it's your study that's going to motivate you the most. Yes. You know, and hopefully the boys are getting motivated by their parents here. And they're like, not going to be me when I get my scan.
It's good we did this now.
So there's all the visceral fat coming in.
Those are my kidneys, right?
Yep. Kidneys, spleen, or stomach.
So are the kidneys getting squeezed by the visceral fat there?
Yeah, there's fat around them. Mm-hmm. Can't really say. I don't think there have been good studies to take a look at renal function with perirenal fat, like the fat around it, how much it impairs. Mm-hmm. But definitely it's going to impair because the mechanics of your heart, they really need an optimal space to be doing the compressions. So hard to say, so I don't want to fearmonger, but
do people with diabetes typically, does the kidneys shrink or grow or anything else, any other interesting conclusions you can draw?
The kidneys on MRI of a long-term diabetic may have hydronephrosis, like swelling, because their urinary tract system, all their pathology falls apart, and so they basically have a swollen, strained kidneys. And so I don't see anything immediately concerning, though, honestly. Gun to my head trying to figure out a single thing to come, and I can't on your kidneys. But yeah, all that fat in your muscle is problematic. Well, all that visceral fats, in your abdomen, all that, the largest chunk of fat I've seen in a 30-year-old. Those things catch my eye. Now, this white here is your gallbladder. It looks okay. I don't see anything immediately concerning about it. Scan up here a little bit more. So we go down a little bit more. So your psoas muscle to abdominis rectus, you've got a lot of space in between there.
Yep.
So they're not kissing, but that's what we want. There's no reason. You're 37. We can get those to kiss.
Yep.
And you'll have a lot healthier functioning abdomen and musculature and that's vasculature.
We're gonna be like, people are gonna think that we're your siblings, you guys.
Yeah, like we're.
There you go.
Dr. O'Mara's done with us.
That's it. So look at the burden now in your muscles of that fat, all that visceral fat distributed within you, giving you're not as bad as the 40-year-old that looked like a big pimple, the hockey player that's a billionaire, but you're almost that way. Yeah. And you know what? You're a thin, lean, diabetic guy. You're only 37, so we got to change that look completely. Okay. Completely. All right, let's go to your lower abdomen now, Tom. That's just your upper abdomen. So
it's cracking.
Go down to the lower abdomen.
Curious about the gut because of the bowel movement.
Do you have history of constipation or bowel movements?
Yeah, tendencies towards constipation.
Okay, we will get into strategies to get rid of that.
You guys are recording, right? Okay, good.
So look at all that visceral fat in there.
Yeah. That DEXA scan sucks dick.
They're just
mine
We
said
had a
zero.
DEXA scan and it said 0 visceral fat he had.
Did it really?
Yeah.
All right,
We
so
have it. I'll send you a picture.
Oh, send it to me.
Oh, yeah. That's
0
them.
visceral fat. He was in perfect shape, and mine had almost none.
Yeah. So
The
see,
doctor's just telling you you're okay when you're not.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's a doctor, isn't it?
No.
Like a
Well,
It
you know,
is-
I'm
it was just a
metaphorically
franchise
sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't
thing.
emphasize the anecdote.
So, yeah. So I'll do a reel about that because I would love to have a
Yeah.
love to have both yours.
Yeah.
If I have your permission to use
Yeah.
your image and the DEXA scan, you guys should do the same thing.
Yeah.
This is why. And listen, you got all your clients are going to be doing this DEXA scan, and they're not going to be motivated.
No.
Because they're going to be told zero.
No.
And then this is why you say save that money because it's like
Yeah, don't
$80 to
do it.
$100
It's
to get
such
a
a
DEXA
waste.
scan, and you can get these MRI scans for about $500. Sometimes even some places they're actually in Minnesota they're horrifically expensive. They're $2,900 just north of us, cash. It's ridiculous, but it still saves lives. Like I have a billionaire up there, and he gets it. He pays that kind of money to go get his scan because his time is money. But look at that. Can you imagine? They're telling you 0 visceral fat on their DEXA scan.
Yeah.
So we'll keep scanning down here. So, and I think you got diverticular disease too. A smaller amount probably than Candy,
Okay.
but yeah. Your muscles are bigger than Candy's, but they too have atrophied with all that visceral fat that you've had in
Got
you.
it.
So when we scan down a little bit lower to your maximum love handles,
Yep.
probably right there. So you got big love handles, lots of deep subcutaneous fat because of your visceral fat. You got nice superficial subcu fat though. So we're going to hold on to that. We're going to make that disappear
Yep.
because we get rid of all your visceral fat, your myosteatosis, fatty infiltration of your muscle. They were right at your belly button there,
Yep.
so you kind of know where you're at in
Yep.
terms of your level.
Yeah.
Sorry that keeps spinning like that.
Okay.
Got to put it on.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know what I do is I put
Rotation
it on
lock.
auto lock, and then that won't do because it makes me want to have a seizure when that thing flips. How many? I've done this hundreds of times, and I just finally figured to do that. My
Yeah,
God.
there you go.
All right, so let's keep scanning down there. We're going to go down lower into your rectal area.
Okay.
So that's your rectum here, and you can see
Yeah.
all that visceral fat surrounding your rectum as well. Now, Candy had more visceral fat within her pelvis, and we see more poor, pathology in our poor women, female population, pelvic organ prolapse. So there tends to be a concentration of visceral fat, adiposity within the pelvic structures of women. So but that's the more reason why we should be educating. Your clients need to do this. They just need to be aware of this so they can see this thread.
Well, they're gonna hear it,
Oh God, yeah.
and they're because I've helped them so much so
Yeah.
far. They're going to do whatever I tell them to do.
That is awesome.
They got a ways to go though.
Keep educating them. Let them know. Now this is your rectum, your colon descending down into your rectal area, and look how it's all filled with inflammatory fat around it.
Yeah.
And so you're wondering why you struggle with slow bowel movements, difficult bowel movements. You get rid of this, Tom, you're gonna have a bowel movement in 3 seconds. It will not quite feel like
Orgasmic.
I'm telling my male coaches this. It's like it's not like orgasmic like explosion. It's more like edging. if you know what that means in social media. It's more like, so it's this fantastic, prolonged, good feeling, right? And then you have this very nice reflex of a bowel movement.
Okay.
And when you have that, after when we get into strategies, I'll have some pictures of it, but it's not going to happen with that persistent visceral fat there.
Okay.
You're going to be, if you live to 80, you would be that guy coming in with, you can't even pick your head off the bed, struggling to get out. If I could only have a bowel movement.
Yep.
You know, and this is what their greatest desire in life. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Just to be able to.
Not going to be
No.
you guys, okay?
No.
But nobody thinks about that,
No.
man.
No.
Those people never thought about it when they
Nope.
were your age.
No.
Never thought about it. But this is where you put it in. You put that game plan in place. This is my anti-diaper plan, my anti-constipation plan. Constipation is serious, bad pathology. People, kind of dismiss it, and we kind of rolled our eyes at it in the ER. And I'm like, and I remember when the first doctors training me when I was a brand new first year physician right out of medical school, and he had this awful term. It bothered me so much when he said it, but I mean he was right. I'm with this older patient who's just they were just a train wreck, had everything wrong, and he just looks at me. I'm trying to do these things. He goes, Sean, you can't make a turd shine.
Yeah.
He said that to me, and I'm like, oh my God, he's like giving up on this person.
Yeah.
Don't polish a
But
turd.
you can turn people around if you know how to do it. But that doctor gave up because they don't know how to do it. There's only so much drugs and stuff that you can do. But now you see all that visceral fat. You know what you got to do. And so yeah, all that visceral fat right at your anus.
Yep.
Your anatomical anal canal. And 20, 30, 40-year-olds, they have increasing, declining rectal tone. God, your legs are worse than Candy's.
Oh shit. Okay.
So that's a surprise. But you're diabetic, you were a vegan for 5 years. How the hell did you get to become a vegan? Who talked you into that?
It was just
The wrong place at the wrong time.
God.
It was the trend.
Just, trending and books and stuff.
God.
Books.
All right. So your bones, I would say, are even thinner than Candy's.
Okay.
And you're only 37.
Okay.
And we weren't vegan together. We didn't even know each other when we were both vegan, but we were vegan about the same time.
Yeah.
But we didn't even know each other.
That's
then.
interesting. I wonder if
Isn't
it was
it?
time. Yeah. When I asked the question, I'm like, God, I hope it wasn't Candy that talked me into it.
No.
Because you were vegan for 9 years today?
7 years.
7 years.
And it was
5.
in my 30s, like late 20s, early 30s.
So you can, my muscle will get better, but my bones can improve too.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Sprinting, cleaning up, no cheating, no carbs. You want to sprint, you want to jump. Box jumps, broad jumps,
Okay.
things like that. Sending signals to I need strong bones. Doing that. So you want to be doing it, and squatting would be good.
What
But
about a weighted vest?
I would start with the fundamentals without weighted vests, and then you can work to doing that. Work
Okay.
up to it.
Okay.
But God, you got some work to do there. All your muscles are fragmenting and atrophying.
What do you think about, because his insulin is getting pumped right into his leg? Is that part of it?
No, I don't think
No?
so.
Okay.
It's going to be physiologically distributed, and
Should
but both of his legs are symmetric.
yeah, and I pump it in my left leg.
Yeah, I guess.
So you got symmetry to it, and
Okay.
but yeah, it's gonna be your type 1 diabetes, your veganism. But again, those are the worst legs I've seen in a 30-year-old.
So do I take calcium with magnesium, potassium, or what do I do to support that bone regrowth?
Meat, right?
Just
Meat and the strategies, and we're going to optimize your microbiome.
Okay.
When you optimize your microbiome, you won't need to supplement. You're going to be absorbing way better.
Okay.
Those epithelial cells that line your microvilli of your intestine that stick out like appendages, billions and trillions of these things sticking out. They're just unhealthy right now, and as your microbiome improves, the capacity to absorb them. So a test you could do to kind of track that even faster than UP and green will be how fast it takes for you to eat a B vitamin and you see yellow in your urine. So as that gut improves, the speed at which that yellow shows up is a reflection of how well and easily you can absorb those polyphenolic compounds and B vitamins. So it's just something to follow. Nobody even thinks about it. Even GI doctors, they're like, huh. They get it, but I have to explain it to them. And I'm like, this is why a dumb ER doctor figures this out, because my passion is health optimization. So I paid attention to all these things. I just noticed, because when I used to do the paleo thing, and I was doing vitamins and stuff like that, and I noticed as I was get faster and faster, this yellow was showing up faster and faster.
Yeah. Okay.
As my gut was improving.
Okay.
And I noticed kids, if they took vitamins, it would show up faster in their urine and stuff. Now these boys peeing around, nobody would ever flush a toilet around this house. So, and the same thing with water. Like when Sean and Lane were younger, in a car, you give a little kid, you don't ever give them a little glass of water because they got to pee. Because they absorb it so fast, that it goes right to their kidneys. They make urine, and then they're making you stop the car and to pee. You give an old person a pitcher, they'll hold on to that water, and they don't have to pee. It just goes right in. The third spaces goes into their legs, and they don't have to make urine at all. So you'll find as you guys get rid of this visceral fat, your microbiome improves. You'll be drinking water and have to pee. You'll just notice absorption way higher. And you'll be like, wow, biological badass. I'm really getting healthy. Okay. Kids are nothing more than their parents healthy, and to kids, their parents are them when they're diseased. So Lane and Sean can look at you guys, and that's what's waiting them if they if they go vegan, eat carbohydrates, cheat and stuff. All right, so his middle cerebral artery, they look pretty good. A little diminishment there. You can see that drop off in that signal.
Yeah.
So you got probably some disease there. But more concerning on you is your posterior circulation is almost out bilaterally on both sides.
Okay.
You get, at least on Candy, she had one side was good and the other side was quite a bit weaker. You're weak on this side and out on the other. So, and you're only 37 years old.
Yeah.
So look at this is the way you should be. See that all the way around, here. But look at all these huge areas of a diminished signal. So this is what we see in diabetics. Unfortunately, they get a lot of vasculopathy. We call it vascular pathology. But don't use it as an excuse. We can explain that, but it's not an excuse, right? Yeah. So you're just gonna bust your ass more.
Yeah.
Gotta try
An average guy, you're doing way more than them.
Yep.
Because you're a diabetic, and say, no, I don't live my life to be average. I press and bust my ass on every circumstance in my life to live better.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that, but that those are some you guys have, no lie, worse scans than I was thinking I was going to see. But at the same time, I went upstairs and I told my wife, I said I like Candy and Tom because they've got a vibe. They got a vibe where they got passion. All right, we're going to get into strategies. Don't worry, I know it's 5:00, but we never really get into too many of the strategies. You only get about one or two of them.
Yeah.
But we're going to start with the most important ones. So this is me. I don't have any visceral fat, but my muscles haven't recovered sufficiently yet. So do you see that angle there?
Yeah.
Where that apex formed in there? Mm-hmm. That's a bulge of your abdomen.
Yeah.
And so that happens. Lane and Sean will have nice flat abdomens because they're visceral fat. They'll have visceral fat, more visceral fat than I have here, but that the influence of that visceral fat will not have weakened those muscles yet. Yeah. So when you see these guys with these giant dad bods, that's basically a billboard walks around saying one thing: I suck, my muscles are weak. I'm a weak ass wussy. That's what it's saying. Now they think they're tough guys. They have no idea, but they they literally can't hold their guts in anymore, so they're pushing out.
Yep.
And then I go carnivore, zero carb carnivore, and I'm doing all the strategies, and then my abdomen goes flat. But look at even the shape of my head changes,
Yeah.
and I go from having
Crazy.
lunch lady arms like some lightweight, and then I got dude arms finally, and then look at my vasculature, how much my blood flow has improved, and then my hair growth. So my stomach here, I don't have much hair in there, and then look how fuzzy my stomach got there. I mean, it's crazy how much hair I have grown all over my body. Like I've turned into the missing link all of a sudden in my late 50s and 60s. All right, so let's get started on these strategies. God. All right, so these are 2 genetically cloned mice that were used in this study. It's the most interesting and the most important study that I think was ever done on humans. They used these 2 mice that involved humans. The mice were used in the study to get to look at this. And so it's going to explore the first and most important strategy. So what do you think is, of all 48 things that I could tell people to do, what do you think Sean says is the very most important thing to get doing to optimize a human being? And I'll just say this, nobody's guessed it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I would say probably fasting is what I would say.
I know I'm trying to guess an oddball one.
Yeah. Good on you. He's an analyzer.
I know. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's, if
Can't be
nobody's
something
guessed
nobody
it,
else guessed. Got to be
I
a
know.
scary.
I know. I maybe water, something to do with water, drinking the right water. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
way off the.
No, I like where you're thinking, but we'll get into it. Now I'm going to show you the study to explore before I tell you the answer. So these 2 mice are genetically cloned, and what they do is they're cloned from the same strand of DNA. And then they take feces from 2 twins.
The microbiome.
Yes, that's it.
The microbiome.
So they take feces for twins that are discordant for obesity. One is fat, one is fit. The fat one eats processed carbs, cheats all the time, never exercises, never plays sports. The fit one plays competitive sports, so he's not just playing by himself, he's competing. He works out, eats clean, no processed foods. So very different lifestyles, very different appearance, very different performance. The feces from the fit twin goes in one mouse, feces from the fat twin goes in the other. They feed these mice the exact same diets for 6 months before and after the transplant. So they get the exact quantity of mice chow, exact calories at the exact time. They live together in a cage that's separated by a screen so they can't have contact. But the same air, the same light, the same environment, there's nothing else different. It's just this fecal microbiota transplant. Watch what happens.
Isn't that crazy?
I need
I
to
told
change
you
my
about
microbiome.
this. I told
Yeah.
you about this.
Okay.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
How much fermented food? I mean, and I know this is something you're going to have to keep doing for the rest of your life, I assume.
The
But is
rest
there-
of your life.
Is there a period, like a triage period, where you're like, man, eat a ton, or does that not matter?
Yeah, great questions. Doesn't really matter because you need to think about fermented foods. It's not from the standpoint. I try to get away from calling it fermented foods, and I call it meat and microbes. Meat and microbes. Because if you think about them as food, then you're going to eat them like food.
Yeah.
So then you're going to want them like a side order, like a potato.
Yeah.
But you really want them as a garnish. Because, yeah, just like a kind of a condiment. And because it's you don't need much of them, but you need a variety. Okay. So I have some pictures, of that. So let me get into those pictures right now. So this is inside of my refrigerator pretty much any time. I'll have about 20, 30 different ferments. That's all basically I got in my refrigerators fermented. I have meat and ferments. There's nothing else. And then fat, some fats. But I got yogurts and fermented dairies, and then fermented fruits. These are vegetables that I placed into the spring water right from the ground. When I'm fasting, I'll sip on that water, but I won't eat the vegetable. So I just sip on basically I call it living water. And you should be telling your clients about this. They want living water. Instead of drinking plain water or distilled water, they should be drinking microbe-rich water. Why? Because our ancestors never had obesity. Why? Because they drank from rivers, lakes, oceans, and they were filled with living microbes. There wasn't any food around. They were unsuccessful hunting. They still had living microbes coming in. Today, nobody has it. Only my clients that know and understand the microbiome. So I'm known for my visceral fat, but when I talk about the microbiome, I get unfollows. Nobody likes it. I lose tons of followers.
It's not sexy. Doctor.
Well, it's not only not sexy, but I'll tell you how scary it is. Every craving you had is not from you.
Yeah.
It's an infected microbe inside of your ass that's telling you eat for them.
Yeah.
The only thing you need to eat for is fat and protein.
Yeah.
And so every craving you literally have had for carbohydrates come from some pathogenic, obesogenic microbes. If you go into an ER and you spend, or any time in a hospital, you'll find the heaviest employees in a hospital are ER and ICU nurses. Why in the ER and ICU? I'll save time here, because that's where the sickest patients are.
Yeah.
That's where the biggest bags full of the most diseased people are, because it's end stage. It's where they're dying.
Yeah.
They come to the ER, die. If they survive long enough, we get them in the ICUs. And so that's where the most diseased ones. If you look at their microbiome, they've got more pathology inside their microbiome, pathogenic microbes, than any other type of patients. So why the nurses? The doctors aren't heavy, not as heavy. They're heavy, but they're not as heavy as the nurses, or the techs, or the nursing assistants, or the clerks that work in there. Why the nurses?
Most amount of contact time, fecal matter transplants just upon touch.
You're right in that area.
Like cleaning up the mess.
That's it.
Cleaning up
The
mess.
nurses clean up the poop.
Yep.
When a patient is so sick, they just crap themselves. The nurse spends an hour cleaning them up, wiping them, changing their sheets, rolling them over. It's the nurses doing, nobody else. And then that nurse, goes and washes her hands, and they have gloves and all that stuff. But it's microbes.
It's in the air.
They're
Unless you
everywhere.
sterilize your body, unless you're in some kind of
particles.
spacesuit, it just is on you. And they're back there in the staff room eating their sandwiches, and they're talking out loud. I don't know why I keep gaining all this weight and I can't lose that. And they have no idea. So it's just obesogenic microbes. And, grew up, you see all the photographs, blah, blah, blah. Photograph from the 1970s, nobody was obese. Telling blah, blah, blah. The epidemic of obesity is nothing more than a rapidly spreading infection throughout humanity. China, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, none of those countries ever had obesity. And now they're rampant with it because fat-ass Americans are carrying those obesogenic microbes through airlines to those countries. And so we're just spreading this infection all over. I'll go so far as to say, where the hell did this come from? I think it came from Big Pharma.
Really? Yeah.
I think this is just nothing more than biological fiduciary warfare.
Yeah.
They've just made money
So much.
spreading these microbes, and because they know about the microbiome, but they're not telling anybody about it.
No.
They keep it secret because if you knew how important the microbiome, which is what I try to get into with my clients, then you start manipulating your microbiome and living very differently to become, significantly more healthy. My 48 strategies are designed to optimize the microbiome. They get rid of your visceral fat, myosteatosis, deep subcutaneous fat, optimize your superficial subcutaneous fat by manipulating the microbiome. Makes you a perfect human being.
Okay. We're all in.
Oh yeah.
So that's the first insight into it. Now let me
are
explain a
great
few
at
other
fermented foods.
things. And this is where you go. You get to a food co-op near me. Now Madison, there'll be food
Oh
co-ops.
God.
We have tons
I
of
recognize a
fermented.
bunch of those
Yeah.
brands.
So get you want to have at least 20 jars. Here's a plate how I eat. I don't eat this way, but I demonstrate this for clients. So I got my grass-fed, grass-finished beef, bison right in the middle, grass-finished butter, and I have 20 different types of ferments around the plate. So Candy and Tom, when you guys eat this way, you don't have to make You don't have to make pretty plates, little piles like that. Because I think it took me like a half hour to make those pretty little piles like
And
that.
it looks really good.
You did a phenomenal job.
Social media.
For the gram.
That was genius.
I did it. I
An
did it that way
illustration.
just so I could, do this as a demonstration. But then what you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of that meat, put it in your mouth, but don't you dare bite and don't chew until you take a teeny strand of each of those, put it in your mouth, and then chew them together.
Okay.
Because what you're going to do is you're going to mix these powerful living microbes from these fermented foods in with the meat that you're going to eat, and you're going to convert that dead meat into living meat by having these microbes in it. So this is how traditional people eat. They don't eat meat, then they eat ferments. They chew them together. So if you go to a Korean restaurant in Korea, they will yell at you if you eat this meat and you don't put the ferment in and eat it together. I mean, they will yell at you because you have violated. Now they don't walk up to you and say, "Excuse me, sir, you are violating the opportunity to optimize your microbiome." They don't just say. They just say, "You must chew with ferment. What are you doing?" They yell,
That's
because
great.
Your Asian is spot on. It's so good.
A plus.
well, I was there for 4 years, so
Okay.
all these Ajima women were
shots.
yelling at me, and I left that country thinking, my God, well, I pay for this meat. That's all I want to eat is your meat. And but this, get this meat and chew these ferments to turn it into, living food. And before you guys came, you would stick this meat in and you'd chew, or pizza or vegan food or whatever, and you were mixing your pathogenic microbes from your teeth and your gums, and it was seeding that food with bad pathogenic microbes, and you'd swallow it, and it just disrupts your microbiome. And that's why we're falling apart.
Yeah.
We eat so badly.
Yeah.
But my clients, once they understand this is how they lose weight. So I take the most morbidly obese people that have cravings that they cannot stop, and with just working with me, they lose this weight and they never regain it. They will never regain it again because the microbes that cause the cravings for carbohydrates are killed.
They're gone.
You
It's
cut
the
out the
infection's
carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Now, Tom and you guys ever cheat even one time? You think you can get away with a single lick of an ice cream cone, like it's not going to affect your bodies? Here's how it's killing you. It's not. You're not eating for yourself. You're eating for your microbiome.
Yep.
And so when I'm telling you, you take the smallest little tip of your finger and touch an ice cream cone and you lick it and you don't even taste anything sweet. Maybe you detect it's cold, but you just fed a football field of food to the pathogenic microbes in your ass.
Yeah.
And you just fed them fertilizer.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking about selfish Tom and Candy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are just
Eating a
feeding,
little
think you're
treat.
eating for yourself, but it's your microbiome. This is what you need, this insight, understand. It's the microbes in you. So you got to start eating for them appropriately. So no more bad food for the bad ones. It's called feeding the bears. When you feed the bad ones carbohydrates, the bad ones show up more and they reproduce. They have orgies. I mean, humans might have an orgy once a day. These things are having orgies like constantly.
Yeah.
They're reproducing cycles. We have babies every 9 months. They have new offspring like in hours. You're going to lose this battle. Your microbiome is driven when you eat carbohydrates towards a pathogenic, disease-causing microbiome. And that's why in 2024, we have the highest amount of chronic disease that has ever been seen in our species. And it just keeps getting worse because our microbiome is worse because nobody is treating the underlying infection. And so that's why the microbiome is my most important strategy to understand it. So it gets a little bit deeper. You can dump all this food on a plate. This is what I do. I want to make little neat piles. Now, if you want to teach that, use that. I could send you this photograph if you want, so you can use it for your followers and save you from making it. But you probably make a better one.
Is there too much of that? I mean, like you said, you don't eat it for food. You feed your microbiome. But like the second plate you had there had a lot more volume of the fermented foods. I mean, is that just kind of whatever?
Yeah, it was just kind of dumped on.
Yeah.
And the truth that particular image, that photograph, I should take it out because you're like the second and third person who's picked up on that. I was in Florida, and I was in a spot where we only had like 4 jars. We didn't have our 20, and so I didn't have as much diversity. So that one plate. But typically, I will like tonight. I'll do another photograph of how it normally looks with 20 jars and piled all in there, and take that one out. But yeah, you picked up there were a lot of fermented carrots and a lot of the fermented beets and that were in there, and a lot of kimchi, because I think I only had like 4 or 5 jars, and you can travel with them in your suitcase. You know, they're fine because they ferment for like 6 weeks, so they don't have to stay refrigerated. But traveling with 20 or 30 is a lot harder than traveling with 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But all right, so Neymar is one of the best soccer players in the world. He won this game, so his coach goes up. He's a damn happy coach. Okay, why is that coach happy? Well, yeah, it's exciting the team won, but let's face it, his ass going to get more money, right?
Yeah.
He just got another win.
Yeah.
He's going to be negotiate more money, performance bonus, everything like that. But he is really happy with Neymar. Look at that right hand. Where's that right hand? That right hand is in his hair.
Yeah.
Whenever you've grown up and you saw something awesome going on, you go up and grab somebody's hair, you rub it, and so the hair is where microbes are perfectly stored, is in your hair.
Okay.
And so I remember this discussion in medical school. Why do we have hair? Nobody knows. There's no explanation for it. The reality is it's storing microbes. Because when you walk in the water, a lot of your microbiome washes away. But when you go in the water, your microbes adhere to your hair. And so it allows it to propagate. Spreads out face. Exhale, it spreads out. And groin. It's all perfectly designed. Here's a big one nobody really likes to talk about. Hair around your anus. Why? Nobody knows. The answer? Your microbiome. When you have a bowel movement, how good you've eaten. It scrapes across those hairs. They reproduce on those hairs, and it spreads up. It goes down your legs and up your body, and it provides a barrier protection. So when you get cut, those awesome microbes heal it, depending on how good those microbes are. And it provides you a scent, like how healthy you are. So one of the ways I picked up in the scent, the healthier you are, the better you smell, is I'm a colonel in the Army, and these the other soldiers tell me this, but the female soldiers will get around and they say, it's kind of funny, I have to cuss in this thing. Why does that colonel smell so fucking good? So I have this natural microbiome on me. I don't use any chlorinated water. I use no deodorants. When I go into the ocean, I never, I do not allow those microbes and that salt water to dry on me. I never go out and what everybody else does, take a shower as soon as you leave the beach. Yeah. You let those microbes dry in your body, dry in your hair, and then I'll take a towel and rub the hair out. And if the salt is really coarse and it really bothers you, I've gotten used to it. You can take a bottle of just spring water or distilled water, and as long as it doesn't have chlorine, and then pour it to rinse the salt out of your hair, you'll have super clean hair that will smell so good. And then at nighttime when we go to the beach, I'm laying down with Julie next to me, and she's, oh my God, you smell so good. She doesn't know it's the ocean. I just let her think it's stud muffin.
I like it.
But it's those microbes in the water. So you want to get these microbes. So your jobs now are to collect the greatest amount of healthy microbes you can for the rest of your life.
We got some ocean water.
And then the high performers. When somebody does something awesome in sports, you high five them, you high 10 them, they chest bump, they headbutt, they're swapping microbes. Yeah. And then the fans, and the highest, professionals come into a stadium to play football, soccer, whatever. The fans closest to them, what are they all doing? Sticking their hands out like this. They just want them to touch them because their fecal-coated hands have the highest performing microbes inside them, and they want to be infected. They don't even know. You don't even know what's going on. So if you can take the time and get to understand, but you'll see this if you're really observant, you'll start talking to them, and they'll get a look like this. They'll get glazed over, and I can read it. The microbes are lying to them.
Yeah.
They're saying don't pay attention to him.
Yep.
They know when you are about to eat a ferment, and they'll tell you to be terrified of it, to hate it, hate the smell, hate the taste, and anything concept like that are really healthy. They're wired into their host. You're zombies. These things are wired. They're far more fucking intelligent than we give them.
Yeah.
Understand?
It's a network intelligence.
Yeah.
Oh, they're way older than us.
Yeah, they pre-existed
Yeah.
human Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
They have to control the human, the host, because they can't leave. They have to influence it. And we think we're all these thoughts are us. No, they're controlling us.
Yeah.
So group huddles when you're playing sports, that's to get good microbes and swap them and help them be shared amongst, so you can play way better as a team. The healthier, the more shared the microbiome, the better performing the team. The future of the highest performers will be optimizing their microbiomes to network better. Here's the best example of it. Birds, those flocks, they turn instantly on a dime. Nobody can explain it. It's their microbiome.
They're all networked.
It's their microbiome allows that to happen.